Sure, ma'am. A very good morning to one and all present here. This is Disha Gupta, student of first year Retail Management Program and an active member of Club Retalia. I feel privileged to welcome you all to the annual Retail Summit 2020, organized by Retail Management Program, BIMTech, supported by RAI, and executed by Club Retalia. Before we start today's program, I would like to share a famous quote by Tory Burch. What started as two distinct channels, in store and e store commerce, is now truly becoming one global omni channel. Recently, we have witnessed the retail industry is facing significant market transformations. It has experienced a paradigm shift due to COVID 19. Due to this pandemic, retailers are adapting to these changes and thus omni-channel has become the new normal. Before we start for the day, I would like to welcome Dr. Raj Sethuraban, Editor-in-Chief, Journal of Retailing, Harold Simons Chair in Marketing, Professor at Southern Methodist University, Texas, USA. Dr. Harivansh Chaturvedi, Director of BIMTech, Dr. Anupam Verma, Deputy Director BIMTech, Dr. K.C. Arora, Registrar BIMTech, Dr. Gagan Katayar, Chair-in-Person of Retail Management Program, Dr. Pankaj Priya, Area Head Retail and Marketing, and all other senior faculty members, and welcome to you all panelists for the day, and all students, alumni, and industry experts who joined us for Annual Retail Summit 2020. Moving forward, I would like to share with you all about the Retail Management Program. Birla Institute of Management Technology started this retail management program with an initiative to educate future managers and empower with them with the knowledge to contribute substantially to the retail industry's growth in India. The program strives to create a new generation of smart retail professionals of international caliber and aims to equip them with the best practices being followed across the globe. The program strives to give the best intellectual inputs through various teaching methodologies and has been instrumental in inculcating awareness in every student of retailing and merchandising concepts. And today, with an understanding, retail and detail, BIMTechs feel proud to host the annual Retail Summit 2020 with two panel discussions built around the theme Omnichannel. Now, there is a small and an important announcement to be made. All attendees, please note, we will be posting a couple of questions at the end of each panel discussion. Stay attentive and answer those questions to win exciting prizes. The one who gives the right answer and the fastest finger first will be getting the Amazon voucher worth rupees 1000. The rules for the Q&A will be shared from time to time with you all. Moving ahead, I would now like to welcome Dr. Gagan Katayar, Chairperson of Retail Management Program, to introduce the summit. Over to you, Dr. Gagan.
Thank you, Disha. Good morning to you all. On behalf of the Birla Institute of Management Technology, I extend a warm welcome to all participants joining our annual Retail Summit 2020. The Center for Retail, along with Club Retalia, works closely to organize a number of events in the domain of retail and invite a large number of professionals to interact with our students and other stakeholders of BIMTech. Retail Summit 2020 is one such initiative, and it is the sixth annual summit to be organized today. During and post-COVID, the industry has witnessed a large change, both in scale of operations and the nature of doing business. Retail has been no exception. Yet, this segment has adopted innovations and technological interventions to keep pace with the changed demands of the customers. In such a scenario, this segment also faces challenges and looks towards opportunities both in India and the rest of the world. Intervention of technology becomes crucial at this juncture and companies have found ways and means to use technology in the retail space, and this is a globally large sector and is bound to grow further in future. Moreover, there is an opportunity to grow through e-commerce as touch points have shrinked post-COVID. In this context, the Center for Retail at BIMTech took an initiative to organize discussions and deliberations in this area by inviting professionals from the retail domain who are hard pressed with business results and have been witnessing this industry segment being transformed. Today, we are fortunate to have with us Mr. Raj Sethuraban, Editor-in-Chief, Journal of Retailing, who has spent more than 3 decades in consulting, teaching, and research in the retail space, largely in the US and also in other parts of the world. I'm also fortunate to say that he is my mentor, my guide, and we have been interacting on some common platforms, and he has been guiding me throughout. He would also be sharing his thoughts on technological innovations in the retail area in the US market, with also a reference to India. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
We also have amidst us a very elite panel of speakers who are currently working in India at leadership positions across top retail brands and would grace this occasion with their thoughts and changed industry practice in retail with reference to technology and e-commerce. And in this context, I would say that the brands that represent this summit and the people who are from these areas are from Reliance Retail, Max India, Arvind Fashions, SSIPL, Nihilant Technologies, Being Human Clothing, Big Basket, and Loyalty Jaganet Incorporation. The summit is divided into 2 tracks. Panel 1 would be deliberating on implementing technological interventions in retail, challenges and opportunities, whereas panel 2 will be focused on the topics, the growing importance of e-commerce in post-COVID era. A hearty welcome to all the panelists, sir. This day would also witness the grand finale of the Inter-B School quiz competition, which has participation of more than 515 teams and would await the final announcement of the winners after the conclusion of panel 2 deliberations. Once again, a warm welcome to all participants, delegates, professors, and students who are attending this summit from India and abroad. I hope you enjoy the discussions as the summit progresses during the day. Thank you very much. Over to Disha, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gagan. It was really motivating. Moving ahead, now I would like to invite Dr. Harivansh Chaturvedi, Director BIMTech, for the welcome address. Over to you, Dr. Chaturvedi.
Thank you, Disha. Respected Dr. Raj Sethuraban, who is going to deliver the keynote address today in this Retail Summit 2020. Panelist is speaking in the first panel, Mr. Prasanjit Ghosh, Mr. Harsendra Maheshwari, Mr. Shishir Gupta, Mr. Dharmendra Khanna, and the moderator, Mr. Ajay Agarwal. My faculty colleagues, Dr. Anupam Verma, Professor K.C. Arora, Dr. Pankaj Priya, Dr. Vinu Sharma, Chairperson of the program, Dr. Gagan Katiyar, Dr. Manoj Pant, and several others who are hooked to the Retail Summit 2020. It's a great pleasure to be part of it and welcoming Professor Raj Sethuraban and the industry experts who are addressing this Retail Summit. It is a feeling of nostalgia for me because BIMTech has started a retail program way back in 2001 and the first batch passed out in 2002. And at that time, we were running one-year programs. Later, we have shifted to 2 years full-time program and we have got the approval from AICTE. The first conference we have organized was held in 2003. The chairperson at the time for that conference was Professor B.D. Nathani, and some of the leaders from the modern retail at the time they addressed the conference. So we have traveled along in our retail program. Retailers Association of India has been our partner, and it was a gigantic task for the retail industry to highlight and identify the training needs for the industry at that time. And BIMTech has tried to be a service provider, and we have tried uh, at our institute to groom hundreds of the retailers who are now occupying high positions in the modern retail industry. During the early years, it was difficult to explain to the general public in what way the modern retail differs from the traditional retail. At that time, RAI and BIMTech, because BIMTech started the first full-time program in India. Later, it was followed by a few institutions from Mumbai and other places. Now, of course, for the last few years, there has been a lot of transformation in the modern retailing, and the big issues before the modern retailing in India and worldwide is the challenge of omni-channel retailing. And under this topic, I have found that Harvard Business Review and the leading these schools of the world, they have been debating that how the modern retailing under omni-channel retailing can become a transformer or a game changer in retailing industry. COVID has created a big challenge. The retailing industry in India has been worstly affected because the malls were closed, markets were closed, people were closed at their respective homes, and lockdown for several months created a situation when the modern retailing industry, along with uh, airlines and hotel industry, they were the worst sufferers. Of course, slowly, gradually, retailing industry is picking up. As predicted, customers are bouncing back. There are a lot of rush into markets and malls. And despite of this recent phenomena, still there are big issues, big challenges for the modern retailing industry. And today we are very happy that we are discussing all those challenges under the theme of omni-channel retailing. I think that many of the problems created by COVID and one of the basic problem is how to keep social distancing, how to provide touch-free services, and how to take care of the health issues when the customers are coming to any store or any market environment. IT has provided a lot of solutions, and there has been a lot of efforts from the industry to adopt and embrace the technology so that the customers who are coming to the mall or the stores, their health requirements are taken care of. But when we are using technology, there is another big challenge which comes from the use of technology, that is lack of personal touch. In retailing, the interface between the retailer and the customers or the buyers has been a big, strong factor in favor of the modern retailing industry. And the retailers or the people who are working in any store, they are always available to help the customers. And they have been the backbone of the industry. BIMTech is proud that we have produced hundreds of the managers, store managers, and the other retailing professionals who have been managing various crucial functions of modern retailing industry in India. So I wish that today's proceedings and discussions become fruitful and insightful. Our students will be immensely benefited. Our alumni members who are connected today, they will also get some lessons and takeaways from today's one-day program. Thank you. I wish good luck, and I heartily will welcome Professor Raj Sethuraban, and other industry speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chaturvedi, for your words of wisdom. Now it's time to begin today's session. I would like to invite Professor Manoj Pant to shed light on the theme and introduce our esteemed speakers.
Thank you, Disha. Very good morning to all. Good afternoon to some people from different location, and a very good evening to Dr. Raj.
वैश्य मैं तुमको कॉल करता हूँ.
Okay, so the theme of our today's proceedings will be surrounded around omni-channel. Okay, so to quickly set a context as to what is omni-channel. Broadly, it is defined as a multi-channel sales approach that provides the customer with an integrated customer experience. The customer could be shopping online from a desktop device or a mobile device or by telephone, or in a brick and mortar store, and the experience would be seamless. The omni-channel couldn't be more relevant in the current times. And omni-channel shoppers also tend to have larger shopping baskets and exhibit more loyalty. So to put things in a nutshell, consumers engage more with omni-channel retailers, spend more money with them, and are more loyal customers, coming back more often to the physical store. It's a modern approach to commerce that focuses on designing a cohesive user experience for customers at every touch point. This differs from traditional marketing, where individual channels were optimized without necessarily taking the whole experience into mind, referencing the importance of listing your product wherever consumers are already spending their time. So with this in background, it's my proud privilege to introduce Dr. Raj Sethuraban to take forward the discussion. And he is the editor-in-chief, Journal of Retailing, professor at Southern Methodist University, Texas, USA, and Harold Simmons Chair in Marketing, a prolific researcher who, besides teaching both undergraduate and graduate students, also does research work with corporates. He is a thought leader in retail. I did a quick search for his name on Google Scholar, and it showed that the number of articles with his name was 3,340. And the interesting trivia would be that the number of articles double every year since 2016. He shall be talking on new technologies in omni-channel retail in India, with reference to US also. Presenting before all of you, Dr. Raj Sethuraban. Over to you, sir.
Mute. Let me share. Let me make sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me make sure I can share the. Okay. I go share and.
Yes, sir, we can see your slide.
Okay. You can see my slide on. Okay. Okay, on the slideshow setup. Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. In fact, just in the last 15 minutes, I have learned more from you all as speakers than what I probably would be giving you in the next 15 minutes. And that's why I'm so delighted to be part of this conference or talking to people in India and learning more from about them. So let me start with first thanking, of course, BIMTech and especially Dr. Gagan Katiyar. I met him at Jindal Institute of Management workshop last year, and we got to talking a lot about our research. And we became friends. He says I'm his mentor, but we actually are friends. And he even attended he has revealed my age by saying I have 3 decades of research. So he even attended my 60th birthday religious ceremony in Chennai. So when he asked me to be the keynote speaker for this conference, I couldn't refuse. Then I started thinking about what would be the best topic to address. And I saw in the catalog or on the schedule that right after this, as was already presented by Dr. Chaturvedi and Manoj and others, that you have a retail technology intervention panel. Since I had just worked on retail technology myself and written a paper on it just 2 months ago, I decided to talk about retail technology. Then Gagan said, why don't you include something about omnichannel and customer convenience? So let me see, I can't see the slide myself because, is there a way to move that? Let me, I can't see the whole of my slide. Let's see if I can probably even here. Well, I'll be able to talk through this. So I'm just trying to, yeah. So I decided to choose this topic, new technology in omni-channel retail. And I'm going to really make 4 points, just in case I run out of time or we are not able to get through all of it. New retail technology is gaining rapidly. First point. Second, Dr. Chaturvedi was saying COVID has affected us so much. Yes, it has made a lot of unfortunate turn of events for us. But actually, we should thank COVID, at least from a retail technology advancement standpoint. It's technology that has enabled us to sustain our retailing despite COVID-19. Third, India is poised to selectively adopt new technologies, some of which I'm going to talk about. And last, if you think you've seen it all, it ain't even started. You haven't seen nothing yet. There's a lot more retail technology to come in the next 20 years or so. So let me start with the first point. New retail technologies are developing rapidly. And I am going to introduce Moore's Law. Some of you may know Moore's Law. It was introduced in 1965 by Gordon Moore, who was the co-founder of Intel. And he said at that time, capacity and speed, computing speed and capacity will double every 2 years. And at that time, people thought he was crazy or a dreamer. But he actually showed that Moore's law actually works. This is a 1:2 scale, so a straight line means that it has been doubling practically every 2 years. So from nearly 1970 to 2018, computing speed and capacity have increased. And that's the reason we are able to have this seminar on Zoom. That's the reason why technology has advanced so much. And that's also the reason why I have been able to introduce a similar law of my own about retail technology. And that is called Raj's law, humbly putting, on doubling retail technology. And what that says is the number of retail technologies introduced in the market will double every 2 decades. And we have proof for that. Just like Moore's law had proof, in terms of data, we have proof. And that goes back to 2 of the papers that I had written and published in the Journal of Retailing, one in 2005 and the other in 2020. So let me talk about the first one in 2005 with Sethuraban. At that time, we were asked to compile the new technologies that were introduced in 1980, between 1980 and 2000, and classify them, organize them. So we couldn't find, more than 10 to 20 new technologies, and we organized them into cost-saving technologies and service-enhancing technologies. And you can see some of the examples of those technologies. So we did the same project in 2020, just 3 months ago, and we wrote it about 2 months ago. where we were asked to compile technologies between new retail technologies between 2000 and 2020 and classify them. And we used, in terms of customer convenience, customer purchase journey as the basis for our classification. So we classified them into pre-purchase technologies, purchase technologies, and post-purchase technologies. And I have given you some examples of those technologies. So we did prove the Raj's law of doubling retail technologies. There were about 20 retail technologies, not all of them are displayed because of space, between 1980 to 2000 on the left quadrant or left side, and about 40 retail technologies on the right hand side introduced between 2000 and 2020. So that's the proof to show that retail technologies are growing rapidly. Let me get to the second point. COVID-19 has actually accelerated the use of retail technologies. And we have proof or an article about that too. It was written in June of 2020 by Anne Raghavin, who is the other editor-in-chief, and myself. And it's kind of everybody writes about the impact of the pandemic. And we looked at it from a retailing and technology standpoint, more from the US. And we found 3 reasons why, or drivers of why COVID has accelerated retail technology. The first one, actually, and which is the reason you have omni-channel, and to some extent, Dr. Chaturvedi briefly mentioned that even though online is sexy and very attractive and everybody thinks they're doing online, before COVID, physical or offline retailing across the globe, and especially in the Western countries, was 80% physical retail and 20% online retail. It was a 80-20 rule. After COVID, or once COVID set in, it has reversed into 20-80, 20% physical retail and 80% online retail. And that, because online retail has to be enabled, a lot of technology has stepped in. The second is people don't want to, either because of COVID or other reasons, go to their desktop or PC or laptop, or a PC, laptop, desktop, or even their iPads and stuff to make a purchase. They want to do it right then and there, even while they're driving. Mobile is, earlier PC was about 50-50. Mobile now is even more than 70% of the online purchases are happening through their mobile. And that has set up a whole bunch of mobile related technologies, mobile compatibility, mobile apps, and so forth because of COVID. And the third, again, I think Dr. Chaturvedi talked about it. A lot of times, Amazon, for instance, started its first 2 products, Amazon online, with products that did not require touch, which was actually books and CDs, because they said people don't have to touch and feel it to buy it. Now, Amazon practically shelves everything. And that's the way COVID also has forced us into exactly the opposite. Rather than, instead of touching and feeling to buy, now we don't want to touch it to buy. Even pizza has come as touchless pizza. So all these 3 have instituted a whole range of technologies that has happened because of COVID. That's my second point. The third point is, what role does India play in the adoption of retail technologies? Is it mainly for the so-called advanced Western nations and stuff, or can India and other countries also adapt in a way? And I think they can selectively, and they will. And the basis of proof for this comes from an article on disruptions in retail technology that I read recently, a Deloitte report, 2017 Deloitte report. In fact, most of my listing of retail technologies came from this article. And it's a fantastic article. I think everyone should read it. And the interesting part is it was sponsored by the Indian Chamber of Commerce. So they had written it from the viewpoint of the Indian market. And they had talked about, as someone else also was saying, a lot of IT enabled technologies. So, but even though retail technology is going to advance how India is going to operate, and I'm sure the panelists will have better things to talk about, or more things to talk about with respect to the challenges and opportunities. But I think these are the opportunities and challenges from the Indian context for adopting retail. The opportunities are obviously the growth in organized retail sector. I've given a few other talks also about organized retail sector in India, and I guess it's between 6% or 8%, not that high. And there are some people who say there is a limit to how far it will go. But even if you think it's only 6 to 8%, if you talk about a country of 1.3 billion people, or however, whatever was the last count, and a retail potential of 1 trillion US dollars, which works out to nearly 70 lakh crore rupees, even 6% to 10% is really big and enough for you to make the investment in retail technology. The second is growth in online and sector, especially Amazon and Flipkart and maybe others too. From what I heard, I was at another conference this morning. I got up at 4:30 a.m. And Suraksha, Newcastle University, had written an article about Diwali sale in India online. And I heard that Amazon and Flipkart accounted for nearly, I don't know if it's right or wrong, 70% of the total Diwali sale. And that got a lot of mom and pop Kirana stores mad, and it got even the government mad, and perhaps even rightly so. But that is enhancing the opportunities for retail. Large population, but it's not just the population, it's the population density that drives the return on investment on retail technology. So I think a lot of cities in India do match that requirement for giving better bang for the buck through retail technology because they are very dense. And we talked about malls in Delhi or Mumbai or even Chennai for that matter. And then the last is the target consumers. Indians, at least the middle, even the poorer Indians or so-called not so educated and stuff, or quite computer and mobile tech savvy, even more than some of the people we see here in the United States. In fact, I read where that there are more people having a mobile phone in India than safe drinking water. 97% is the penetration of mobile phone. Even people who sell vegetables have their mobile phone. So they are very mobile and tech savvy in some sense. So all of these are opportunities, but at the same time, there are some challenges. The affordability, cost, the purchasing power of the consumer is not that high. And importantly, the infrastructure and bandwidth. So that's something for you all to consider. But I do think I'm very optimistic about the penetration of retail technology in India. That's my third point. The fourth point is that there is a lot more to come in terms of retail technology. So if you believe in the Raj's doubling law, we said there were 20 new retail technologies between 1980 and 2000. 40 retail technologies between 2000 and 2020. So we should, if it goes the same way, between 2020 and 2040, we should have 80 new retail technologies. And I firmly believe that we will get that. We will have that. And the reason is the three drivers, or there are three reasons why I think so. One is the enabling function of technology. The second is competition that motivates us to adopt technology. And the third is the consumer as driver. So let me quickly explain each of them. What is technology as enabler? We talked, at least for the past 15 minutes or 20 minutes, about retail technology, but we never defined what technology is. We've just presumed that we know what retail technology means. But therein lies the problem, because technology is not what it is, but it is what it does. It's the enabling function of the technology that makes it technology. So artificial intelligence is not technology. Machine learning is not technology. But if artificial intelligence is put into an Alexa, a Google or Amazon pod or box or whatever, then that becomes technology. So I just want to explain that with, I don't know if you can see this card. This is my credit card. I had a real difficult time in the 1980s when we landed in US to get this credit card. Nobody would give it to me because I didn't have the financial backing or history. So when I got my first card, that was called credit card technology. That was a technology by itself because it was just introduced. So when I used it, people used to physically write the credit card information, the expiry date, the number, and so forth, and then submit it into some payment system. So that was a physical writing technology of the card. Then some restaurants and others had a machine where they used to run that and physically get an imprint of the credit card. So it became a physical imprint technology. Now I can go to a store or retail store or something and simply swipe it, or to a petrol station. And even that was not good. This one, because I'm supposed to be, old and major customer, I have a chip embedded in this card. So I can insert it. And so that becomes a chip technology. Now, even that, in terms of customer convenience, why should I take the trouble of inserting a credit card? I should be able to just show it and go. So it started with the scan technology. So you just flash it, and then once it scans, you go. They didn't even want that. Think about how lazy customers are becoming. So they wanted to tap it and go. So that became a tap technology. And then they said they don't even want to hold it. So it became a touchless technology, which means you don't have to, you just have to have it in your hand. And that was the touchless technology. You don't have to tap it or do anything. And now it has come to a stage where you can keep it in your pocket, in your wallet or your purse, and then you can walk through, and it will, so long as that is registered on their system, it can automatically, just like all the car, when it passes, it can get their registration card. This will get all the details. So the reason is, one credit card technology has now spanned into 8 different technologies because they enable different things. And that's how technology can or is going to
the orders, meaning what is the number of lines and all that, if we can please review, because if though as a base of ordering merchants is now growing, we want to increase.
Sorry?
Sir, you can go ahead, please. I think that.
Okay. That was something. Oh, I thought that was a question. Okay. So the second is the treadmill driver. And what this means is you have to be running all the time to stay in the same place. So when the treadmill is running, treadmill is a competition. If you stop, you will fall down. So you have to keep running to be in the same place. So sometimes, even if you don't want to adopt technology, especially happening in some of the developing countries, we develop technologies simply because others are. Even in our own university system, everybody is moving to online education. Obviously, for obvious reasons, we cannot afford not to invest millions of dollars in online education or Canvas, which is our system for processing information. The third is the post-COVID. People have started expecting customer convenience, expecting touchless transfer, expecting e-payment. And so if you don't give it, so if you have it, then they may or may not come to you. But if you don't have it, you are sunk. So it is a must-have kind of technology has become a must-have thing. And they have become more familiar and sophisticated because they expect also. And that runs across the spectrum of people, young and old, whether they are poor or rich, male or female. Earlier, we used to think only young, at least in the US, young white males were the ones who adopted technology. All that is gone. In fact, older people like me are adopting as much technologies. Females are adopting as much technology. In fact, my wife and daughter, as you may have seen, even with the Zoom, know more about technology than I do, or using technology for their purchases. So all of that combines into being a major force for enhancing use of technology in the future. So if you put it all together, in omnichannel, the technologies that will do well, that will enhance customer convenience. The first line is primarily pre-purchase technologies. I've just given you a few of them that will apply in the Indian context. The second line is purchase technology. The third line is post-purchase technology. I can't see it actually because part of the screen is being covered. But it's also fashionable when something becomes mature, like accounting or finance, or then they start using abbreviations. Doctors use that. So AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, RA is recommendation agents, VS is virtual showroom, VT is virtual trial room, and IoT, you will know, Internet of Things. So all those, that means that people have started to become familiar with those technologies. So in closing, I want to go back to what I started out with. New retail technologies are expanding rapidly now in online, and especially more so in omni-channel, when the physical retail also becomes part of our total post-COVID new normal. COVID-19 has actually accelerated the use of technologies. India will gain from adopting these new technologies, and more advancement is only yet to come. You ain't seen nothing yet. So that's all I wanted to convey in this keynote address. So thank you very much for having me, and good luck with the rest of these conference.
Thank you, Dr. Raj. That was putting the perspective of technology in the right context, and you made some valuable points. I have one very interesting question which has come in from the attendees. It says that you have highlighted 3 points: technology as an enabler, competition as a motivator, and consumer as a driver. Do you believe that the consumer is likely to be overwhelmed by fast changing technology, and whether the opportunity cost of not latching onto the technology is significant, or is there a risk for corporates that they have obsolescence of the existing technology. Your thoughts on this, sir?
Yeah, good questions. First, let me take the first one. Consumers are not going to be overwhelmed. If you think about Steve Jobs is one of the best marketer that the world has ever produced. Even though he was a techie, more like a nerd, uh, he is the inventor of Apple. And Apple is one of the most technologically complex or sophisticated product. But he believed that anytime someone uses the iPhone or whatever, any Apple products, that user convenience, user friendliness is so important. And that is, as Gagan was saying, customer convenience. Customer convenience, you can't get rid of customer convenience. And if your technology is making things more complicated, then there is a problem. There is a problem with the technology. So I don't think they will. What was the other question that the latter part was?
The latter part was whether the corporates would find their existing technology obsolete very fast, that they risk investing more into it.
I think that is interesting. I mean, we can't say it won't be obsolete, but what is happening is there were two kinds of technologies. One is leapfrogging technology, which means it will go from one technology to another technology, like physical retail to internet or online retail. The other is adaptive technology. That is, it will go in stepwise fashion from one thing to the other. Even if you see iPhone 11 and 1, 2, 3, now it's iPhone 12. So most of the retail technologies are of that nature. So you have to constantly, that's why I gave the treadmill analogy, you have to adapt. You have to be constantly on the lookout. I don't think it will become obsolete, so long as you find a value proposition for it and keep refining and modifying it. The only place where I think it could be, is in the use of robotics. Artificial intelligence use will not be obsolete, but there will be more. Apps will not be obsolete. You just have to keep refining it. And mobile apps are going to be a major source of retail technology. Robotics is a place where things can be different, what their capabilities and so forth. But I don't think that should be a major issue.
Thank you, sir, for elaborately answering it. Now over to you, Disha. If you could stop sharing the screen.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for a great address, and that was a very, very relevant address to the theme of this summit. In fact, we have bothered you late night at US, I think. So thank you again for being with us here, sir.
Yeah, I will try to stay for the next panel, then I have to go to bed. It's about 11:50, 12 midnight here. So.
You're really very energetic, sir, even at this age, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Over to you, Disha.
We all know the importance of omnichannel and how the multi-channel approach focuses on providing a seamless customer experience, whether the client is shopping online or from a mobile device, a laptop, or in a brick and mortar store. But the question is its implementation. But before we dive into this discussion, let me please remind the attendees to be attentive for the Q&A session. Now it's time to learn the same in deep. I would like to invite Professor Manoj Pant to open for the first panel discussion. Over to you, Professor Pant.
Thank you, Disha. So now, after the icing of the cake, we come to the cake itself. Now, we have a very power-packed panel, which will be deliberating on implementing technological interventions in retail, challenges and opportunities. I'll introduce panelists one by one and then hand it over to the moderator, Ajay ji, for taking it forward. We'll start with Mr. Dharminder Khanna, AVP Digital Transformation, SSIPL. He is a professional with about 2 decades of experience in the fields of retail industry as well as online sales. And he has been a often awarded professional in the area of e-commerce in 2019, 2020. He is currently heading brand management and digital initiatives at SSIPL. Earlier, he was associated with Carvi, and prior to that, he has a wide genre of experience with Shop Clues, retail e-commerce, with Reliance Retail, Home Shop 18, with their fashion and lifestyle division. He is also instrumental in cementing the fashion and you.com as then market leader in the segment. And he has a experience of working with retail chain like Royal Sporting House, premium sportwear brands like Adidas and Umbro. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Manoj. Thank you, BIMTech, and thank you, RAI, for organizing this.
Then we have Mr. Harshendra Maheshwari, Vice President, Max India, National Head Retail Experience and Visual Merchandising, Max Fashion. He is the National Head for Retail Experience and Visual Merchandising, and his previous employers were Reliance Trends, Reliance Retail, Madura Garments at Aditya Birla Group, and he is a PGDM from IIM Kozhikode and a NIFT Mumbai graduate. And he has a wide experience working with as a fashion designer from his NIFT days, and then moving on to larger brands like Madura Garments, where he was instrumental in largest selling shirt brand of by the name Peter England. And then he moved to a buyer and a category manager profile role, and with increasing responsibilities. Currently, he is looking after the retail experience design and work with operations to create a lasting experience for true consumer delight. Welcome to you, Harshendra ji.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody.
Then we have Mr. Shishir Gupta, who is the head Omnichannel for Arvind Fashions. He drives the digital charter for international brands like US Polo, Gap, Sephora, and Aeropostale. He has worked for retailers like Shoppers Stop Group and Metro Cash and Carry, managing their progressive business units. He's also consulted many international retailers and CPG companies during his tenure with the Smart Cube for digital transformation, omni-channel, direct-to-consumer, and e-commerce projects. Welcome to you, Mr. Gupta.
Thank you, Professor Pant. Excited to be here. I look forward to a very enriching discussion today.
Then we have Mr. Prasenjit Ghosh, VP Retail IT from Reliance Retail. He has played a very key role in the IT implementation and digital transformation of Reliance Retail for the last 15 years. He has enabled omni-channel, e-commerce, wholesale, and retail business across multiple categories like grocery, fashion, lifestyle, electronics, and telecom. Prior to that, he was instrumental in implementing the ERP across other divisions like Reliance Petroleum, Petrochemicals, and Financials. Then, when you have a power-packed panel, you got to have a moderator who can hold fort and manage the eclectic discussion. We have Mr. Ajay Agarwal, retail e-commerce, global retail head with Nihilent. He has been an entrepreneur, advisor, and a mentor to many startups. He started his career way back in 75 as a trainee engineer. He also is part of 100watts.tech, a retail tech startup accelerator driven by the retail CIO community. He also serves on the boards of some retail startups as advisor, mentor, and investor. He founded, in 1995, he founded CCom to launch India's first point of sale stack, Smart Shop. After it was acquired in 2006, he launched India's first enterprise e-commerce marketplace, Plisma in 2009. And he has been advising a lot of retail brands, technology enterprises, and retail startups on strategy, growth, and customer engagement. And before becoming an entrepreneur, he worked with leading IT companies. He also is a terrace farmer growing his own food with a mission to spread a message of sustainability. Over to you, Mr. Ajayji, and
Okay, thank you very much.
best of luck.
Thank you for lovely introduction and kind introduction. And I think I must appreciate Dr. Raj, a lot of insights, especially on technology from 20 to 40 to 80. And I'm pretty much in agreement with him that yes, I think 20 to 40 period is going to look at more than 80 technology pieces coming into play. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you, BIMTech, and thank you, RAI, for organizing this. And it's such a great team of professionals and practitioners around me, and young students and young energy. I think it will be fun talking about all this. So retail, as we all know, is the most disrupted industry during this pandemic. And I'm saying disrupted, not affected, because retail is a very, very complicated, industry from the point of view of some retailers were completely shut, some were partly open. And on the other hand, it is an important lifeline for the consumers, for the citizens to continue living their life in isolation. So retail played a very important role during this pandemic, and that's where I'm using the word disrupted. And in many ways, and I think the most thing which got affected in retail during this period was the supply chain, which got completely disrupted from one end to the other, in terms of visibility, in terms of supplies, in terms of in terms of what is required, what is not required. So there was a complete kiosk, and the industry first 3 to 4 weeks was into a reaction mode. That they did not know what is happening, how to put things together, how to make sure that the customers stay in sight. And then we started getting into the resilience mode that, okay, we have a duty, we have a responsibility as an industry to serve our customers, to serve our citizens, and take care of their requirements during this period, and contribute to the whole crisis. And I think now we have moved into, after 9-10 months of this whole business, we moved into recovery mode. And very soon, hopefully, we should be able to buy. My vision is that in second quarter next year, we should be moving into acceleration mode, where actual renewal will start. But right now, we're going through a recovery mode. The industry is going through recovery mode. And we are struggling with three major challenges in a way. One is loss of business. Retailers are still trying to recover whatever business they were started with in the month of March 2020. How to bring your supply chain back in order. And as Dr. Raj also said, the technology is going to play a very important role now. And technology, certainly the retailers have realized the tech is going to become very important. And the one word which is becoming very, very synonymous with all the retailers I've been talking to is single view of supply chain, from supplier to the consumer, how I can get a single view of supply chain. And that is where technology is going to play a very important role. And customer value, that now the focus is more on customer value. And brands are now looking at how to build value to the consumers. Those days have gone when brands were pushing their brand only on discounts and cashbacks. And I think now the brands are really looking at real purpose, how to engage with their customers, how to engage with their consumers. So then real initiatives will start. In a way, it is good for the industry, good for the consumers. And if you notice that there were earlier three key consumption drivers, just to put the context in place for all of you, that one was the value. Consumers were looking for value before spending. They were looking for experience, and they were looking for convenience. These were three key value drivers in the past. And now I think the three more have been added because of this pandemic. And one of them is the choices. The consumers have now more choices, both in terms of channel, in terms of brands. So the choices have become much wider. As I was saying, the purpose has changed. The brands are now engaging with the different purpose. They are rediscovering the purpose of engaging with their customers. The brand values will change completely in this time frame. And because there is a lot of shift happening from offline to online, and the customers are doing a lot of online commerce, privacy will become very important, because customers are sharing a lot of their data, with the retailers while they're making commerce. and the privacy will become a very important factor. So that is one aspect which retailers will be looking at, and also safety because of the pandemic, post-pandemic. See, consumers are very, very careful right now. So they're looking for safe shopping environments. So those are new value drivers which are coming in for consumption. And I think those retailers are very well aware. They are taking care of these things. Now let me start with Hashendra first. Hashendra, you have been a part of the fashion retail business for a long time, and you actually have started as a fashion style professional yourself. I would like to hear from you. What do you think is your reaction? What was the reaction of brand like yours, or your personal reaction as a retail professional on in this whole journey, and what kind of challenges you think you have identified during this period?
Thank you so much, Dr. Agarwal. You guys can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really delighted because what Dr. Raj said, and even for Dr. Agarwal, I had made my bullet points, but you guys have already ticked all of them. So it's really nice to.
Ajay, 1 minute. I'm not doctor. I'm just Ajay Agarwal. Ajay, you can.
Okay, sir. So, I had made a few bullet points which I thought were really good points for me to elaborate upon, but you have just ticked all of them. And that's the beauty of, the resonance which I felt as a professional individual. I learned in this pandemic with my company, with my organization, and working with my own colleagues has actually been the motivator across the industry. So first was the purpose. Apparently, the way, and I believe there are students here, it is very important for you to understand this whole technology, the word which has been used so many times since morning. Apparently, when I was young and I joined a company, I knew technology comes from seniors. Technology comes from IT. Technology comes from consultants. And all of this while the SOPs and everything was actually coming from somebody we were the followers. In this pandemic, apparently we have become the drivers, and the purpose has been understood, where way of working with everybody as a company to provide convenience to the consumers, whether it is for fashion or FMCG, has become the ultimate goal for. It doesn't matter which role you are in. Everybody, whether you're a front end staff or you're a warehouse person or you're an office guy, administration, IT, everybody had the same purpose. How is it that the business continuity does not go down? And that's exactly became technology. We've written our SOPs for the first time for the history, because we never experienced, our parents never experienced a pandemic. This was some historical data of some decades ago, which was put to practice with very little knowledge. And that's exactly where I feel it's a commendable job done by us, all of us who are survivors. And retail has become the backbone for the nation to bring back, jump back economy. And I think we're doing very well. So a round of clap for everybody. Second thing that I wanted to say, while tech is something that comes from companies which are tech companies, and technology is the purpose, how is it that the people are the most important part here? So going back to the question that you asked, how did the brand react to the challenges, especially in the fashion field? The largest challenge that we had ourselves was on safety. Because even if it is the warehouse staff who's required to go to ship, even if it is the store who's required to open the store, for our own staff as well, and for the people who are working from home, work from home apparently became the biggest challenge for us, because in fashion industry, when you're working with swatches, color lab dips, design, prints, everything has to be seen in a particular light. Suddenly the IT team said, okay, fine, we don't have enough laptops, we don't really have those many softwares. And that, I think, was the biggest challenge as a company for us, where the management said, we need continuity. Even if our expenses go double, we would provide a safe environment where people can work from home. And that's exactly what was the driver for us at Landmark Group, where everybody felt connected, protected, safe, and we wanted to give back. Everybody has done almost all the jobs. When the stores were shut, Omni orders were coming, store staff themselves went, delivered the goods safely. And that's exactly where I think the people have made the biggest difference. The people part of the whole process of pandemic and how does the brand react has become the most important conversation in our organization. Uh, Going back to the question where exactly the store and the brand and the sales, I think the brand reacted very well because we said, first of all, consumers need convenience. We are a fashion retailer. Trust me, not everybody wanted to wear those chunky shoes. They really wanted comfortable chappals. And that's exactly where the complete shift in our buying pattern and consumption pattern from the customer made a lot of changes. We wanted to sell more of something that consumer wanted, but we never had it. Factories were shut. How is the complete budgets have been converted, and a lot of back end work, which I'm sure for the whole industry. Having said that, when it comes to safety at the stores, we opened the stores. Our safety was paradigm for the staff themselves. Social distancing, sanitizing stands, all of that happened while we did not see each other for almost 6 months. And that's exactly where the way Dr. Raj explained, credit card is just a small example where so many technologies apparently kept jumping, kept evolving, and consumer was the first front end driver. There have been so many SOPs that we made ourselves, which I'm really, really proud of. If the customer needs to shop, okay, fine. They have been shopping on online. Thankfully, we had our e-commerce working successfully. We said we will deliver. So there were the 3 Ds for us. First was deliver, second was divert, third was disperse. We do not want people to really come out of the road on the road or to our store because they want to be feel safe at home. We will rather deliver any stock, whether it is in warehouse or store. We pulled out the complete single view of inventory and everything was being delivered. Because loyal consumer base, we have about 70-75% loyal consumer base. Most of the people know what is their fit. It was not a dire need for them to try, and trials were not that important. Even governments were putting restrictions. No trials were allowed for the safety. So we started delivering. Anybody who's okay and they really need to, maybe, they want to shop, because apparel is very touch and feel, colors, what goes well, this shirt with this jeans, this t-shirt with that shoe. And that's exactly where the second part came. We said divert. Okay, we are in a mall and the whole mall is not operational. So what can we do? We started pushing back all our energies into standalone stores. We said, let's divert. How do you divert? We said, okay, consumer wants to shop, but the store is not open. What we can do, we can go and near them. We started doing pop-up sales. So we created 2 days pop-up shops in the societies, and a lot of venue sales were done. A lot of pop-up stores were opened into those smaller shops, which unfortunately shut down because of COVID. Those spaces were available for us, so we quickly opened low-cost stores for max consumers, so they don't have to travel too much. Third was we started doing video shopping. If the consumer is there on WhatsApp, they will call to the store manager. Store manager will show them garments. They will select everything, whatever they want, and then we will deliver it. Fourth was home trials. Even if they want to order more, try at home. And all of this literally was while they were not coming to the store. And that's exactly where I think retail technology was discovered by us, while there must have been many examples coming from the predecessors. The last part was disperse, where if the consumer actually wants to come out, because trust me, we all have been so tired of sitting at home, we really want to go out. And the experience, truly going to the mall, seeing the lights, looking at yourself in that big mirror is something that you can't take away, and home cannot provide that. So if the customer is coming to the store, social distancing, safety, sanitization, all of that process was done. Videos were made. All of the brands have done wonderful job to ensure safety at the store, and that's exactly where consumers felt very good. This festive has done phenomenally well for us. While we were in a recovery phase, and you rightly said that, right now is a recovery phase. I don't think so we can expect growth. We've been 85% on our recovery for the last year. And mostly for max and the value consumers, Onam, Pujo, Ganesh Chaturthi, Diwali, and we are heading for Christmas now. Trust me, our books are all green. There is no Black Friday at our side. When the customer reaches the store, we said, okay, fine, we will give you social distancing even when you shop or even when you make the payment. We had cash counters, which was just a meter away to each other. So we shut down one of the alternate cash counters. We created cash separators so that consumers feel safe when they're actually at the billing. That's exactly where we said, why everybody has to go to the cash counter to make payment? Why can't we just introduce MPOS? And a lot of force was added with machines on their belt. They're taking turns on the floor, and if they see a customer with a shopping bag, they will go and say, can I bill it right here for you, because I have a mobile POS. You don't need to the cash desk. MPOSs were added. Then tap payment. Not all the stores had these machines, but tap payment started. Wallet payment, UPI. Now all this thing, I think it has been a great discovery for us that We had all this by our side, but we never used it because it was never needed and we were never pushed. So I feel Corona has been a really great push for all of us to understand all the other ways that a brand can react and still manage safety, security, sales for consumer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ashendra. Now let me invite Prasenjit. Prasenjit, you have been part of Reliance, and you've been part of Reliance, not just retail alone. You've been Reliance for a long time. We are very entrenched into Reliance culture as well. As a company, as Reliance, and not just as a brand Reliance, but also as a multi-category retailer, Reliance, which is into almost every format. How did you come out, and how did you start dealing with it? Though I have some friends in Reliance in technology space, and I came to know what was happening there, but we would like to let everybody else hear from you what was happening and how things were being planned at your end.
Yeah. Thanks, Ajay, and the thanks, Professor Manoj, for the generous introduction. Thanks, BIMTech and Rai, for having me in this summit. So I'll quickly start with a grocery segment, because I think Harsh has already covered a lot on fashion, and I would like to touch upon what we did for our grocery. I think what COVID did was it threw up a huge challenge. Uh, uh, as to how do you serve the customer in the COVID period with all the safety norms, and how do you actually meet your social responsibility? Because while everything was locked down, the essentials were allowed to move, and that put the onus back on us, saying that how can you meet the customer requirements in this pandemic? And that was a huge challenge. And I kind of agree with also Dr. Raj, who said that this is a hugely opportunistic moment for the entire organized retail, because there's so much of disruption which has happened, and we have been forced literally to kind of adopt all the new technologies and make things happen for the customer. And take so to start with, I think the first challenge was that since the customers couldn't no longer come to our stores, and especially in lockdown 1.0, the thing was, how do you then take the stores to him? Why can't you take the stores to the customers? And I think that's what we did. And we tried to push our online sales from our existing offline brick and mortar infrastructure. And in May, Reliance Retail GeoMart went live across 200 plus cities and towns. And we started doing hyper local model delivery. I mean, using a mix of all our brick and mortar stores. We even kind of got a lot of local kiranas with us, and with our fulfillment centers, whichever were active in the lockdown period and not closed. We kind of were able to deliver a very good customer experience within, of course, the limits of the lockdown rules. And what COVID disruption has done, it has helped us, better our online offline play, and it has helped us to perfect our omni-channel offering. Earlier we were like more of offline seller, but now with the COVID, the mix of online offline has increased tremendously, and we've got a huge response to what GeoMart did during the COVID period. Another thing which we did was, we took a lot of our essential items, trucks, which were enabled with online payment capabilities, and I think that's another thing where UPI, all the Google Pays and Paytms of the world, the GeoPay, GeoMoney, and all of that has helped us to give a very touchless experience to the customer from a payment perspective. So we had trucks going to the customers in their various societies, and enabling them to pay via touchless online payments. And the whole experience was touchless, wherein the customers could get their essentials at their doorstep without having to either pay cash or any physical mode, even like a credit card. And the whole thing was a touchless experience, and it was so much better for their safety. and many of the residents actually volunteered to kind of help us during this time with when we went to their societies with the essentials and maintaining the social distancing. And I've never seen this kind of unique cooperation which has happened between the customers on one hand and the organized retailers on the other. And I think this kind of a symbiotic relationship has really spread the message that together we can defeat any odds. And it's really helped our brand reach uh, where, because we've helped customers in these difficult times. So I think from a grocery side, that was uh, what we did. And from fashion, I'll give you a couple of examples on, let's say, for example, in jewelry and fashion. I mean, can we used actually a lot of augmented reality to see to give the customer how they can actually uh, visualize what look that they would have when they get a particular, when they wear a particular set of necklace or a bracelet. So I think it's early days, but I think we are going to go there. And I think COVID has really helped us kind of jump into that space wherein we can use augmented reality, do a 3D, a virtual, create a virtual look of a person, and then finally close that particular sale. So yeah, thanks, and over to you, Ajay.
Thanks, Prosenjit. Shishi, let me invite you, and you again come from a pure play fashion brand, Urban Fashions, and especially you being an omni-channel head. What did personally you went through your mind, and how you can start reacting to the situation in this, in that context, from the omni-channel context, and especially in a fashion category, which was most affected during this period.
Sure. So Ajay, I think the first reaction was that we realized it is the Paytm moment for digital. Similar to what happened with Paytm and demonetization, we realized that this is our moment. This is our moment, and it's going to be uh, the response for digital or e-commerce is going to be tremendous. And what that means is that we need to ensure that there is enough supply. And the second point is that we have enough demand channels. The third bit is that how do we enhance our backend capabilities to kind of cope up with such kind of a surge which is unimaginable. And the fourth point is that how do we create right content, because many of the shoppers who will be shopping online will be the first time shoppers doing an online purchase. So how do we create right content for them to make their purchase easier and relevant, and then solving for very specific use cases which we believe that are going to exist, are going to become a norm, or are going to be there for a very long time. So I think these were the five points which we thought that we have to work. And specifically, let me talk about the supply side. Since it's not that we adopted the omni-channel journey right now. We've been there for around 4 years. We understand the complexities. We've had SOPs. It's just that we were starved of the supply, because most of our demand fulfillment actually happens from the stores, because we've achieved that single view of inventory many years ago. It's just that we are starved of that inventory, and we prepared for the worst, because we preempted that stores are not going to be open for many more weeks. What that means for us, that we immediately created, adopted, created e-commerce only warehouses. We're having an integrated WMS OMS technologies. That means we ensured that there's enough supply when customers come to shop with us. The second point was that on demand side, that means, do we have enough demand channels? We have our own .com, and plus we are also connected on marketplaces through our store inventory. It's just, are we connected with enough demand channels, because the shoppers will go to many more platforms and search for us. Are we connected to them? to ensure we used that the lockdown period for doing all IT integrations. And then the third point on enhancing the backend capabilities, we started we ramped up ourselves by adopting a new logistics management software, which helped us to ramp up our same day or hyper local deliveries, same day deliveries, next day delivery. What it means is that we are ensuring that customers, the propensity of a customer uh, to convert increases by 2x when we are delivering, when we giving a promise of a faster delivery. And at the same time, we also wanted to connect to more pin codes in the country. And then write content in terms of, we realized we started working on the on the content that will resonate to the shoppers who's going to be inside home for many more months. What are those occasions? What are those thoughts where we can integrate ourselves and say and make them help, basically make their purchase easier and very relevant to what is happening right now. And then specifically solving for the right use cases means we understood that definitely there's going to be a tremendous shift in terms of how people are paying, how people are going to basically how many people are going to try, and what is going to be that mechanism. So we started solving for those use cases. uh, while basic arrangements about making people safe and secure inside the store, that has been into place. But I think we're still working on solving for these specific use cases where customers are able to uh, make their purchase easier inside the store, and as well as are able to do that faster. So Ajay, I think these in terms of reactions, these are the basic or say very primary reactions that we had, and so far it's been great.
Thanks, Shishir. Now we'll come back to some of the things which you mentioned were interesting on, especially in terms of content and all, online content. I think that's a very interesting aspect which I've come across. So Dharmendra, you are from a brand which is not just a shoe brand, but it is a brand which is, I would say, completely impacted. People were sitting at home, though they were wearing clothes, but they may not be wearing shoes, right? And also you are also in a company where you have a full life cycle of the product from manufacturing to retailing. You handle that. So, and especially you being a part of the digital innovation, and what is the kind of strategy and thinking you went through from your own business point of view? And I think that will be interesting because you have manufacturing, then your distribution, and then retailing.
Thanks, Ajay, for the question. For the audience interest, SSIPL also owns the brand called Lotto Sports. It's an Italian sports brand. We are licensing manufacturer for a lot of sports, international and domestic sports brand in India. We also have a multi-brand sports stores format called Sports Station. Most of the Nike stores that you come across in India is SSIPL stores. On this business format, as all of us have just heard from the other panelists, during the lockdown, the 60 days which we got, we worked a lot on, we were working on those technologies on Omnichannel, endless aisle. We had some sort of presence in the marketplaces as well on the outright model. But the advantage we got because our catalogs were ready, or we were working on some model on the marketplaces, we could replicate the entire catalog on ship from store model. Both Amazon and Flipkart enabled the ship from store omni-channel model just after the lockdown. And those 60 days of lockdown gave us an opportunity because we were working from home, and we as in no brick and mortar actual sales were happening for anywhere else for except the grocery and the chemist shops. Everyone were working on what next, and initial days there was so ambiguity, the things were so fluid that though the first lockdown was 14 days and it extended and extended, and every time that extended, that gave us another opportunity to pick up the bricks and fix up the entire piece together so that we are ready when the actual sales start happening on whatever models we are creating. As you rightly said, the demand post lockdown was tees, shorts, and slippers. Period. First 20-25 days, moment we opened, that's the kind of demand, and everything we had in the stocks were went off. Good part was there were some containers, there were some manufacturing lines which were lined up. We quickly inverted, the supply chain technology came into action, and we started supplying those also. The other advantage that we got, fitness as a category became a very well adaptive technology, because everyone is working on home. We've been eating or making new cuisines at home. The entire family is together, they're eating together, and every time you're eating, family wanted to make something new, from and share on the social media. And the counterpart of this is that then you want to burn your calories that you have actually taken over. So we saw a lot of standalone fitness regimes that were being adopted by people. We were actually working with our customers very interactively on sharing the fitness regimes. We ran a contest on, share your fitness regime and videos, and we were sharing the tips so that, people, the adoption were there. After 25-30 days, there was huge demand of running shoes that came into picture, because till that time, even going to a park or a gym was restricted. Moment that opened, the entire fitness product as a category saw a good spurt. On the technology side, as most of you have spoken, endless aisle has always been the biggest opportunity. We were working on the back-end integration of endless aisle, and the replication of that catalog to our marketplaces like Amazon, Flipkart didn't become much of a channel. And since that APIs, catalog, backends were ready, what we initiated immediately after lockdowns or unlock one was video-based shopping. So you can search for Lotto video stores, where there's an app that you can talk to a customer agent, retail athlete that we call in our front end. You can speak to him. He will showcase the product. The product will come to your cart right there. The transaction will complete. The product goes to your home. Then we had adopted a product called WhatsApp-based shopping. That's become a very adaptive, use case in entire restaurant industry. So you can order your food from just a WhatsApp bot. You just say hi to a Lotto WhatsApp bot or a sports station WhatsApp bot. It will start talking to you. You, as per your ask or interest, it will showcase the catalog, and then you complete the transaction within the WhatsApp without much of a hassle. That we initiated. Besides that, we worked a lot on CRM as technology. As Professor rightly mentioned, mobile has become, I think, 80% or more in the commerce section. Since the customer is on mobile, customer is on digital, SMS is passé. You're reaching out to your customer to wish him or interacting with him is actually, just for use case. But we're adaptive as CRM also on digital CRM, where you can interact with our customer on WhatsApp, social, and beyond that also. So there's a lot of data which is coming in. There's a lot of segmentation we've been able to do during those 60 days. And those technologies that we innovated on this CRM and sales side had been worked very well. On the supply chain, since some of you has touched upon that point as well, supply chain also worked very well for us because we got the first mover advantage. We had the inventories while people were unlocking their businesses and trying to find how we manage the product that is there and reach out to the customer. We had inventories. People like our partners like Reliance and Landmark Group or other partners were very hungry for the inventories like slippers, shorts, and that were there. We made sure we quickly interacted, engaged with the government authorities. Although our master warehouse was in a containment zone, we quickly got the permissions. We initiated the manpower restrictions were, I think we were operating with 1/5 of our manpower, but we're still able to manage the same load of our volumes of the transaction that we were handling pre-COVID, because we initiated a lot of technological interventions during that. One of them was automatic replenishment system. The other was integrated or trucking system or supply chain system, where we can give location of the truck to our partners in real time, because every time we were shipping out something, the chances of the truck is passing through a zone where the truck gets stuck, because that zone has got become a containment zone, and that live location feed that we can get in our charts, we can share with our partners, and they were still okay that the product is somewhere near. There were some delays, but we were still ahead of everyone else. So, right, all that work which we probably would have worked before COVID on technology, we accelerated it during the lockdown period, and that gave us an advantage post COVID. So that's from the SSIPL side, Ajay.
Thanks. And I think there were a lot of inputs came out from all of you, and I would abandon my second line of questioning. I think we already have enough to move further. And so let me move on to my next question, which is to Shishir and Harshendra both, because you're both into fashion business and fashion retailing, and partly to you, Dharmender. There was a period when there was a complete lull in terms of demand for your category, and you could not sell because everything was shut. But then, as things started opening, there was a confusion about which channel will open first, whether e-commerce will start or not, or whether stores will open, or if stores open, some cities, some opening, some are not opening. How did you estimate your two things? I want to understand, and if you can give a technology context, that would be great for the audience. In terms of, one is what is to be allocated to each channel, each store, for example, and what are the kind of items they will require, and what is the quantity, because as Dharmender mentioned, there was expected surge on a lot of things, because people were really hungry to buy those things. For the last 3-4 months they were locked up and they were not able to buy those things, so there was a surge. So my interaction with retailers was that there was this whole speculation that how do you estimate that surge, that what will be the demand tomorrow when Amazon opens, how much material I should make available and which SKUs for Amazon channel, So I think that will be interesting to know. And if you can, as I said, give you a technology context, let's start with Harshendra, you start, and then, all of you, if you can touch upon your experiences on that,
Sure. So I think the best of the references came from our daily lives. For last 20 years, every Monday, I used to put up my formal shoes, wear a tie, and go to office. And I have not touched my ties since then. But the things that I have used literally are the joggers, shorts, drawstrings, stretch t-shirts, and that is what reflected while the stores were not working. And every time I used to meet my CEO, operations head, design head, buying head, we all were exchanging thoughts and notes, and that's exactly what I said. This has been the most learning period for us. While we were not asked to deliver. As an individual, we learned from our daily lives what share of wovens versus what share of knits. Thankfully, because we are into the value fashion, we were pretty good with respect to the amount of knits that we carry in our stores for a range for, say, a menswear division or a women's wear division. And that's exactly where our chest print tees, table products, that's what took the precedence. And we said, okay, so wovens will not sell, trousers, formals will not sell. How is it that we can talk to our vendors and get those goods ready to be shipped first? Because we knew, and it happened at a season where we were about to launch spring. And we knew that the wovens of spring need to be carried to the summer. Rather, summer's knits have to be brought in first. So I think a lot of brainstorming happened at our end, where individual category, kids wear went up, nightwear went up, undergarments, lingerie went up, but dresses went down. And that's exactly where, after repetitive about 3-4 meetings with the management, we created a graph, which was our internal consumption thing, and we shared it with the territories. A lot of feedback came from operations team, because as per the metros versus tier 2, there is a very different consumption pattern. People have different aspirations, where they wanted to go and rather buy a brand, but maybe nightwear can be from Max. And I will not shy away from, we are literally not the cheese or the cheese spread, but the bread maker. And that's exactly how value fashion is consumed in our daily lives, and it is a very important part of our wardrobe. The shift happened from those category to this, where thankfully we were ready with all the supplies that were needed from knits point of view, and most of the consumption in our daily lives was actually for knits that came handy for our experience. Over to you, Shishir.
I mean, I'll just touch upon one, very relevant thoughts. I mean, basically, we are also dominant men's casual brand, so that has put us in a good spot. But we learned with, I'll say, we learned daily, looking at how looking at the data, right? Looking at the data of what customers are searching, what customers are clicking, and what are they ultimately buying. We learned daily about that, and what that means for us, what that meant for us is that how do we have enough in terms of supply? If not, then what is the quickest way of getting it? Because the typical supply cycle of a fashion product is more than 90 days from design to supply. But hopefully we had a couple of technologies in the back end to ensure that I mean, if required, we are able to source that very quickly. But to be honest, I think everybody had enough inventory, and I can I can confidently talk about that, about the entire retail ecosystem. So we all had enough inventory. So as I said, first we learned through the data, looking at the data every day on what is that they're searching, what is it they're buying. Definitely, I mean, anybody who's sitting on a video call would want to wear a t-shirt, but would also want to make a statement with that t-shirt. So that's why we said that we were well placed in terms of our brand portfolio. And then Ajay, I'll also want to touch upon the question on which channel to open first and where to allocate inventory. And honestly, we did not decide this at all, because we have a single view of inventory, and that single view of inventory is available for everybody. So it was not an allocation basis, but based on demand basis. So wherever we got demand, we started and the automatic allocation started happening. So we really did not had to think about allocating the stocks, and which channel to prioritize and which channel to not.
Right.
To Dharmendra.
No, because my interaction with some of the retail brands was that they felt that the historic data which is normally used for these kind of decision making was completely useless at this
Yes,
point.
It was. So we looked at the data every day. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so that's where the challenges were, that either you use your experience and understanding of the category and the consumers of your customer base, or you use your instinct, to some extent. Dharmendra, you have any experience on technology side? If you can bring any context of, especially in your case, the surge must have. You mentioned about surge, that there was a build-up surge. How did you estimate that surge?
So not even surge, the decline surge. It's a roller coaster ride. What every retailer had during these times. What went good for all of us, the retailer, the shopkeeper was standing there for you. He was arranging products that you were in need. In case there was one store which was open in your vicinity, he was making sure whatever that you probably are looking for, sitting at home in your troubled times, as is being arranged. Retailer came up with all that solution that was required. Data technology is being adopted by every retailer. You go to any retailer now, they have a CRM tool, there is loyalty program, there is contactless, touchless billing system, payment system that everyone has adopted. So that kind of smooth transition with such a high pace adopted across the retail network, and retail is not small in India. It's 10% of our country's GDP. A $10 billion country, $1 billion is contributed by retail only. And these retailers were 80% unorganized. They have started becoming organized just after GST and demonetization and all these faster internet. All these, and COVID has, like Shishir said, it's Paytm moment for COVID has become a Paytm moment for retail. The adoption of brick and mortar has started becoming much higher after COVID. And what we are very confident of from here on, since the entire multi-channel approach that retailers are adopting, the businesses are adopting, and customers is very comfortable shopping while scanning a QR code. I remember in 2013 we made first scan and shop live in T3 Delhi Airport for Home Shop 18, and there was a challenge of mobiles not having a QR code scanner and internet being falling down during that time. Everything is seamless right now. The adoption is so cool. Every phone has a QR scanner. And in case there is a waiting queue outside my store, so there's a limitation that we can take the consumer in. People can just scan the QR code, browse the product that's available in the store. Meanwhile, their turn comes in, they're ready with what their selection are. In case they want to have a touch and feel, they can do touch and feel. In case they do trial, we do quarantine the product which is not being bought by them. We do sanitize the trial room after they leave. But then all these technologies, touchless experience, digital shopping, the entire invoice getting into their phone rather than a paper invoice. There are some costs that we have incurred in these troubled times, although there were no scope of any retailer to incur additional costs. But these cost has been benefiting us and saving the long-term cost for us in future. So these times has been learning for the entire retail, and from here on I see retails will see an exponential growth. The students that are exploring retail as their careers, I will actually say as SSIPL in Lotto only, we're expanding from current 50 stores to 200 stores in next 1 year. In our MBO format, sports station, we are expanding to we are adding another 70-80 stores in next 1 year. And all the brands we work with are very gung-ho about the retail expansion, just because there is all retail store. But what's the mindset of consumer and the industry was, retail is brick and mortar. It's not. Actually, every brand, every store that you go now has sales being contributed by digital innovations. Couple of my mall stores, there is very, very expensive, or I would say very big store in center of Delhi, in Connaught Place. The footfall was very low in last post lockdown till Diwali. There was huge challenge on footfall. My digital sales contributed to 30 to 40% in those stores, and I could marginalize my expenses and and still have been able to achieve my business as usual numbers to some extent. So these technologies are just strengthening the retail as a business, and e-commerce is not a threat now. It's not now a partner in our growth. So that's what we think as the opportunity here for the retail as an industry.
So we now move on to our last segment, and let me start with Prasenjit. I'm based on my personal experience and personal observations. One is I feel that the technology is moving towards SaaS-based, adoption, which is quick and agile and low cost. And the second is a lot of innovation is coming from startup space. And I'm being a part of 100 Watts, where we actually work with startups on innovation and especially in retail. And my engagement with most of the CIOs at 100 Watts is that they tell us what technology they're looking for. So what has been your experience and observation, starting from Prasenjit, in terms of role of SaaS-based, and do you think SaaS is going to take over the enterprise-based technologies in the times to come, and how the startups are going to play an important role? Are the large companies like Reliance and Landmark Group are ready to accept startups in their ecosystem or not?
Yeah, an excellent question, and so I'll give you the view here that let me start with first the enablers which have happened because in this COVID period, and why this organized retail has been able to have this huge impact. And as Dr. Raj had mentioned about mobiles, I think 4G network had played a huge role earlier, as just mentioned that the internet is to drop. Now that's never going to happen. And the online payment space, and just take the case of UPI, which has gone from, let's say, 1.5 billion transactions to now more than 2 billion plus transactions in November. So I think because of all of this, what we did was we were able to use a lot of technologies which are kind of homegrown, and a lot of which has been provided by startups. And we have a huge partnership with a lot of startups within India and abroad, wherein we are trying to bring the latest technologies and trying to figure out how we can do their adoption in the retail space. And I'll give you a couple of examples here. Starting with, take the case of our homegrown mobile billing application. Now we've got a billing app which can be used from any Android device. I mean, you don't really have to have your own, mobile machine in the store. You could have your own mobile. I mean, let's say, for example, if I am the CSA and I can have my own mobile device, I can load my own app, which is a billing app, and with few authorizations and security, which is built within. I can actually start billing my consumers wherever they are. It could be at the customer doorstep, it could be at the gate of the society, or it could be in a store, just about anywhere. And I think that really has helped us in the COVID times, wherein we could take we could do almost do touchless billing to the customers at the customer doorstep. I think 3PL and the SaaS model will play a huge role in supply chain automation. A lot of retailers may not have their own capabilities, but I think 3PL and SaaS would be the way to go in supply chain and specifically in last mile delivery. I mean, we all know how last mile delivery is quite costly. And I think it's only when we have these partners who can pool the deliveries is where I think that's where the future is. Another thing which we have been trying to adopt, and we have been quite successful at it, and using a lot of startup technology in our supply chain at the warehouses in our DCs and FCs. We use a lot of RFID technology. We are trying to explore how we can even improve our efficiency and reduce costs when we do our inbound and outbound deliveries. I think RFID is a huge space which can only exponentially increase in terms of its adoption going forward. And I think COVID has really taught us that, I heard there were people running warehouses with 1/5 of their manpower. I don't think that would be the way to go, in the sense that with more RFIDs coming in, especially in the fashion and lifestyle business, we would actually have a lot of touchless inbound and outbound activities in the warehouses. Another huge an example of startup technology being used in the COVID period was our WhatsApp integration, and using AI in a chat box, wherein all the deliveries were communicated using WhatsApp, and the customer could very easily communicate, because a customer, she's very comfortable with WhatsApp. She can find out when the deliveries are going to happen, if there is something where there is some particular product which needs to be returned. Then there is a very seamless interaction which happens in using the chat box, and a lot of it is artificial intelligence driven. So that's another great example of using the technology in retail. I'll give you another example of fruits and vegetables. And fruits and vegetables, of course, has a very short span, and they need to be procured early hours from the farmers. So when we follow the farm to fork model, and the challenge was that with less number of people manning your sorting stations and in processing centers, how do you ensure that you are able to sort, grade, pick the right produce for the customers, and ensure that it's almost touchless? And I think there we used a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning to kind of understand whether the product is good, bad, or ugly. So whether teach whether the cauliflower is in the right is right for the customer, or it's gone bad, or there are dark spots in there which could be insect ridden. So I think that's where I think in the coming days where AI ML will play a huge role in the processing centers, where you can use this for sorting, grading of products, and thereby ensuring that the customer gets the most fresh products at the shortest period of time. And the another example is wherein a lot of IoT technology is being used. A lot of it is being driven by startups, wherein especially in the areas of refrigeration, I think, and temperature control. I think there are a lot of products which consume a lot of electricity, and it's a huge power consumption which happens. And with IoT, you could actually reduce costs in a significant manner, which kind of pays back the investment on IoT for these products from a refrigeration and temperature control perspective. So I think these are great examples of technology adoption done by Reliance Retail, along with a lot of startups, which we are working very closely with. And I think this particular bond is going to deepen in the future most significantly. And we are sure that our startups would be the next billion businesses of the world.
So, Ashindra,
Sorry, I'm interjecting. There is one more point that I'll add on to Prasenjit. Dr. Raj, the keynote speaker, took the point of privacy, because there is so much data which we are churning these days for our consumers. So for privacy, having an enterprise solution is a mandate for all organizations, be it Reliance or be it a small retailer. But the enterprise solution cannot alone talk to so many channels. So we are in a multi-channel world. For talking that multi-channel solution, you need those SaaS-based startup world, quick deployment products, which are quick fixes, talk to our enterprise, go live immediately, generate sales out of it on a very quick, low cost. Sometimes, most of the time is revenue share model. The WhatsApp bot we generated through a startup, but on the back end, it talks to our enterprise for inventories and sales orders. The ARS solution, automatic replenishment solution, is a SaaS-based product. Our WMS is a SaaS-based product. All these are SaaS-based products launched by a startup in very short time. But to protect our privacy, enterprise has to be there. I think that is what Dr. Raj also wanted to, and I think most of the panelists will agree. The firewall, the back end of the pillar of the organizations is the data and the ERP. That has to be an enterprise. All the solution that we are working on in digital solution, what most of our panelists spoke about, Harsh spoke about, Shishir spoke about, or Dr. Raj addressed in his keynote, those solutions are basically in an amalgamation of enterprise solution and SaaS-based startups.
So, Dharmender, I think, just quickly before I move on to Shishir and Ashindra, I think I personally feel cloud is equally secure. It depends what is the kind of security you build around it. And I'm quite familiar with this whole space. And I think it is a myth that the only enterprise solution can give the required privacy and security. And cloud is equally secure. And it's a question of, if you don't compromise on certain protocols, then I think cloud can give you equal security. Now, quickly, Shishir and Arshindra, if you can name few technology intervention which you have used in this period from SaaS and from the startup space, and 2-3 of each of these, and that will really help our audience pretty well.
So
go ahead.
Thanks. We have a platform called Stylus. Now, this Stylus really helped every store, every cluster, every territory, every town, every city, rather the territory heads in the back end, to manage the whole demand and supply ratio.
Wow.
Because there were stores which were in mall, and mall stores had not opened, and our stocks were stuck there. Now there's a customer who's asking for these gray melange joggers. and that apparently is not available in the channel. So Stylus really helped us on one single view of inventory. What is in our pipeline, what's coming, what is it that we need to push. We also made some lookbooks. Now, these digital lookbooks were sent to customers by WhatsApp. And that's exactly where customers could go through all the styles which are only first available, because we don't want to make a promise and then don't fulfill. So I think there was a lot of interaction between the uncommon, not so very well used in the traditional business as usual times, which came very handy in these times and became the main line of our interaction with customer. WhatsApp, especially for the video call, for the appointment-based shopping when they want to come to the store. And this is where I think Stylus and WhatsApp was really helpful.
Thanks. Shishir.
Yeah, Ajay. So I think I think the one important technology that we use is in integrating WMS and OMS, because supply chain is extremely important in I mean, it's one of the largest pillar for being successful in digital. So an integrated WMS and OMS ensures that we know we are delivering the customer promise. The second thing that we've used is an LMS, which is a logistics optimization software or logistics management software, which helps us to allocate the carriers who work well within one pin codes. So let's say between pin code 1 to pin code 2, there are 3 carriers, out of which this engine learns and optimizes every minute and recommends that this is a carrier who will be able to deliver faster. Then the other technology that we use is endless. I mean, with these are in-store endless aisle, save the sale and ship from store, which which ensures that we are converting our stores into the stores of future, and just not a place of transaction, but a place of experience and experiencing everything about that brand. So I mean, I think these are the pretty very straightforward 3 important technologies that we're using. And I'll add up one more here is our allocation engine.
Wow.
The stock allocation engine, which is this engine decides basis the demand from various channels, which store or which warehouse should be fed with what kind of stock. So these are the couple of technologies. I'll say some 4 technologies, important technologies that we're using.
Great.
Yeah.
So now, since we have moved from we are at BIMTech, which is actually preparing the young talent for the retail industry. Quickly, in the interest of the time, let's 1 minute each. Please share your views about using these youngsters and interns in your business, especially in these times when the things are changing so rapidly, and also in terms of importance of recruiting young freshers in your business from the point of view of providing them career opportunities. What are your views? And I'm assuming a lot of BIMTech graduates may also be thinking of in terms of their own startup or their own business, and what are their views about that? And I mean, and if you need help on that, you're always welcome at 100 watts. That's a great thing. But I just wanted to basically touch upon all of you. I personally feel, like I told you, 95 when I started my company, first software, a point of sale software company in India, I could not afford, because I was a startup at that time, I could not afford to hire experienced software engineers, because of Y2K. Software engineers were very, very expensive those days. And I believed in freshers. And believe me, I built my whole company of 120 people just through freshers from college. And I think I was lucky. I built a very good team, and most of them today are doing very well in their life. So what are your views about this?
Can I go first?
Yes.
So I take pride, when I work with a young person and those unadulterated, no baggage carrying mindset, it really, really helps to explore what is unknown. And I'm pretty happy to say that, we got one of the youngest and one of the youngest CEOs. Mr. Sheetal Mehta is the managing director now for Landmark Group. And he brings in so much of energy every day with respect to what is it that you have not done in your life and you would like to do it now. And that's exactly where work culture with youngsters, with fresh minds right out of college, is a open laboratory. There are no set precedences. When you work with youngsters, the new language takes over. adaptability to technology, new explorations on how can we shorten the TAT, and many discussions of those kinds. So a very hearty welcome to the people who are going to graduate soon. Trust me, in retail, there is so much innovation happening, and that too happening on the job every day. I don't think so it is happening in laboratories. It is happening right where the business is happening. That is going to be the most interesting career choice for you guys.
Yeah.
So I think I'll just touch upon what Harshendra also mentioned is that, bringing it when this entire industry is going through a massive change, bringing in talent which is fresh, uh, and fresh thoughts, an attitude to solve various problems, and I think that's going to be one of the important success criteria for any retailer. Because I mean, I'll just what Harshen said, that bringing baggage when having baggage when you want to transform is can be detrimental. A piece of advice for everybody, I mean, all aspiring students, is that I think anybody in their initial careers is trying to solve a customer problem and not more of a business problem. You start solving a business problem when you progress, let's say 3-4 years down the line. You're trying to solve a customer problem. When you're trying to solve a customer problem, having an answer is not really important, but having a logical thought process to get to that answer is really important, and that's how you can convince your potential recruiters. So I think that's a thought that, or a piece of advice that I'll leave the young.
Well done. Thank you.
I would just like
I
to
thought
share.
to Shishir and sorry, Harsh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'll just continue on this thought. I was talking to my neighbor. Now, this guy has been in many startups, especially for supply chain as a consultant to Landmark Group himself. And when I met him and he said, "Oh, business kaisa chal raha hai?" I said, "Demand to is growing online so much, man. You cannot even imagine." We used to be a brick and mortar company with maybe 2% of our business from e-com. And that surge went up to suddenly 10%. And for all of us to manage that was a nightmare because we were not prepared for it. Our warehouses were not ready for it. So then we opened on Flipkart Marketplace, we opened on Myntra, then we opened on Amazon as well. So he told me that, "Don't you think so you're going to kill yourself because you're exposing yourself to Amazon? How do you think Max will survive? There are 100 brands which will give the same kind of pricing. Customers going to run out of you." And it was a very strong comment that he made, that you work on very low margins, very stable products. How do you think you can, is this a wise move for you to go to Amazon? That Max is available on Amazon now. And interestingly, I just told him, I think it's time to face the virus and develop the antibodies in our system. And that's exactly why only when we will go to Amazon, we will come to know what is it that more we need to do from our end. So I think it is a good challenge that we faced. And now Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, our own webcom, e-com and stores, everybody is working fine. And that was the one piece of learning that I wanted to share. Thanks.
So Harsh, I'll add on to it. The e-commerce, omni-channel, multi-channel has turned out to be a vaccine for retail. The instability, the issues that we used to face, that has been stabilized, normalized by e-commerce adoption that we recently did, all the retailer. I would like to add on to the point which Shishir and you mentioned. Ajay, for all the retail, the candidate who's passing out from BIMTech, this is very interesting time for retail as an industry. The rentals are at all-time low. The channels to sell are all-time high. So there cannot be no good time than this. There's a lot of opportunities if you're supplying to retail, because all that product that product that used to come from China was humongous. All that has been manufactured in India now. All that initiatives of Atmanirbhar Bharat, Digital India, all that is taking just shape. You're there at the right time. When I got into retail, it was on a nascent stage. It was only 5 or 6%, I think you would remember, in 95, 2000 was organized retail. Right now, e-commerce and this modern retail, the real word of modern retail has come now into picture, where the retail is so well connected with technology, SaaS, enterprise, working all together. This is the real time. We cannot go lower than zero, right? We were in April, May, the entire country and the entire retail was zero. We can't go lower than this. There is only upside from here. The rentals are available at superb deals for brands. And if you are an enterprising, manage to get some crack good deal with the real estate developers, you probably will get very excellent location and even a rental free period for some more time. So all this is actually, this is very interesting time. Just stay positive. And as Harsh mentioned, the people who come fresh grads are always full of energy, full of ideas. I recall 2 decades ago when I started internship with one of the buying house. I'm still in touch with that company. Now that company is offering a SaaS-based solution to us. They were into retail and buying. They kept on adapting. So it's all about adapting to the circumstances around you. Um, the the There is limitless upside from here.
Thanks, Prasenjit.
Yeah, I think I'm one of the shining examples of joining a company as a fresher and continuing with it. I joined Reliance as a fresher from Mumbai, and I've continued ever since. And the thing is, a fresher, what he does is he brings so much of new energy on the table. And I think my advice to the class of BIMTech would be to do what they love the best. And I think retail is so happening right now. And what I see is, in the last 1 decade, the kind of technology adoptions which have happened has actually made everybody a kind of run because you just can't really wait and relax and rest on your laurels anymore. You just have to keep on running. And uh, it's such an exciting industry to be in. I think it's one of those few industries where technological adoption is happening at such a fast pace that it's almost very difficult to keep up with it. So, it's a limitless world. Sky is the limit. And
Thank you, Prasenjit.
So my final take is that to all the youngsters sitting here is retail is a very, very interesting space. It is one area, one industry which will never cease to give you opportunities to learn new things. And just to quickly tell you, when I started in '95, my point of sale software company, after working for 20 years in corporate life, I did not know anything about software at all. The only way I wanted to build my software was understanding customer, as Shishir mentioned. So what I did, I spent 2 months before I started writing my software. I spent 2 months in going out to various retail stores and noticing and observing what is happening in those stores, what kind of disputes, what kind of challenges, what kind of negotiations happening, and that gave me a lot of insight about retail industry, and that is the knowledge I used to start writing my software. And that is probably one of the reasons my software became so popular with Indian retailers in a very short time. And I still do that. Let me tell you, I still do that. Whenever I get a chance, I just go and spend time in retail stores because it's a beautiful industry where nobody can stop you from learning. You can just go and stand in a store and start looking at things. Unless you're stealing, nobody is going to throw you out. Let me tell you that. So you just go and spend time and just learn. There is no cost, only time has to be invested. And you can continue to learn not only in business you are associated with, in even your competitors' business, you can go and easily understand what is happening and how they are operating. So that's one thing. And I also like to assure Dr. Raj that you mentioned that India is actually at par in technology with the rest of the world, in terms of retail. And today, till few years ago, India was behind, but now India is at par. The technologies, in fact, India is ahead of a lot of other countries, but I understand because of this whole startup ecosystem, which is rapidly growing in India. And the retailers are adopting new technologies at a very, very fast pace, and it will continue to happen. And thank you very much. It was a lovely discussion. I learned a lot of things from this discussion from all four of you. And thank you. And it was wonderful. And all the best to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay ji.
And thanks, RAI, for giving this opportunity to us.
Thank you, Ajay ji. Very nice of you for the parting words. I would like to thank Shishir, Prasenjit, Harshendra, Dharmendra. We couldn't have asked for a more eclectic panel. You have a wide genre of people from different industries. And what better moderator than Ajay ji to hold them as a glue together, so that it's like a seamless symphony of retail technology. Thank you so much. On this note, I know all good things have to end. Over to Disha.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much to all the panelists. It was an insightful session indeed. There's a gentle reminder to all the shortlisted participants of MindFizz Round 2 to attempt the quiz at 12:30. As I mentioned about myself at the start as an active member of Club Retalia, now it's time to share with you all about the Club Retalia. Retalia is a student driven club that aims to bridge the gap between student learning and the industry. Apart from conducting informative panel discussions and exciting events, we at Retalia work to connect students with seasoned experts and professionals. This will not only help the students gain insights about the retail industry, but will also help them expand their reach in this competitive world. So, we, the members of Retalia, have conducted a quiz competition termed MindFizz by Retalia on the Dare to Compete platform, where we had more than 500 registrations for the quiz, under which we shortlisted 165 participants, which includes students from top colleges like I am Ahmedabad, I am Bangalore, I am Calcutta, I am Lucknow, FMS Delhi, and many more for the second round, which will be conducted now. With this, I wish all the 165 participants all the very best for the competition and request the members of Club Retalia to take care of the same at D2C competition platform. I would like to invite Professor Manoj Pant for the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Disha. Though this is my second vote of thanks. For the sake of protocol, let me thank my panelists once again. It was great to hear your different views and adoption of technology at different paces. One thing we all agree that the COVID has hastened a lot of things what we normally would have procrastinated, or we have those features, we have those abilities, but we would have deferred the learning curve. But okay, thanks COVID for the wrong reasons, but it has hastened the process of adoption of technology. And one thing which is clear from all of this is the customer experience is going to improve. So what we thought was not possible 6 months back, I can think of contactless shopping. I can think of paying through a wallet. I can have online payment and curb pickup. So all those things are there. So once again, thanks to all the panelists. Maybe once we have a vaccine in place and things are better off to connect with each of you personally. Maybe one-on-one would be good. Shaking hands is a long forgotten art. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Professor Manoj. Thanks, panelists. Thanks, Dr. Raj.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
All the best to the students.
Thank you. Over to you, Disha.
Thank you all.
Dear all attendees, please be ready to answer a couple of questions for Q&A round. A request to all the attendees, please listen to the rules carefully. I repeat, please listen to the rules carefully. All answers should reach us through the Q&A section on your screen only. The answer given in the chat box will not be considered. A standard format of the answer should be type the correct answer, comma, your name, comma, and then your email address. I repeat, correct answer, comma, name, comma, email address. You will get 45 seconds to answer each question. The final call about who is the winner will be with the host only, keeping the following parameters in consideration: correct answer, correct format, time limit, and reaching an answer to the host. Hope the rules are clear to all. So let's have the first question. Question number 1. Which Arvind Fashions brand was styling partner in the movie Dhadak? I repeat, which Arvind Fashions brand was styling partner in the movie Dhadak? Question number 2. What is the name of the in-house payment app of Reliance? I repeat, what is the name of the in-house payment app of Reliance? We have received the answers. Thank you all for the participation. Please note, we will announce the name of the winners for the Q&A round 1 between 3 to 3:30 p.m. Please join to know the results and grab the Amazon voucher worth rupees 1000. Looking forward to your presence. A note to all the attendees here. Please note that we will not give the award for Q&A rounds for any absentee. If our team found any absent from the attendee list, the prize will be handed over to the next on the list. Thank you. Looking forward to see you all once again with the same link for the afternoon session, which will have a second panel discussion and the results of Q&A with attendees and winners of Mindfizz. Once again, happy lunch to all. The second panel discussion will start from 2 p.m. So you can leave now and join at 1:50 to attend the second panel discussion. Thank you.
I think Prashant has sent a mail. Manoj, if you can check that.
So he's not joining in.
I think uh, his number is reachable, but I can't get to him. You can start.
No, so Manoj, I think he's just sent in a mail stating that there's been a medical exigency and he can't join in. Okay. So let's go ahead.
That's only no issue.
Okay. So I think now, so we are good to start. Should I request Ayush to please take it on and take the second part of our annual summit on now? Over to you, Ayush.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. A very good afternoon to one and all present here today. This is Ayush Pratap Singh, student of first year PGDM program and an active member of Club Retailia, feeling privileged to welcome you all to the annual Retail Summit 2020, organized by Retail Management Program BIMTech, supported by RAI and executed by Club Retailia. Well, e-commerce has taken the retail industry by storm. During COVID-19 lockdown, more and more customers have shifted to online platforms for shop from daily needs to luxury items. The retailers are putting in all their efforts to attain customer delight. The second panel discussion revolves around the impact of omnichannel and e-commerce in the post-COVID era. With this, I would like to invite Dr. Vinu Sharma to introduce our esteemed panelists for the discussion. Over to you, Vinu ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ayush. A very good afternoon to all panelists on the screen, students, and the participants also who has joined us for this our annual summit from Retail Management Program. Uh, we all would agree to the fact that lunch hour is the best hour for the day, but should not forget that it's most challenging too. And this is now the responsibility gets double for our panelists to make this post lunch session the best hour of the day too. And now it has reached to only two panelists because one panelist is unable to join today's session. So all the best to both the panelists on the screen. And yes, of course, I know that Mr. Siju will take into that direction so that the students and the other participants who are attending as a part of attendees are going to will find it very engaging because I have heard Mr. Siju many a times ahead also earlier too at various platforms when he used to either delivering his own lectures or is also taking the sessions in a moderating form too. So welcome to all of you, all three of you for this session today. Please accept my sincere thanks for being with us today, and it's really elated to welcome you all to this panel discussion, which is the design in a very defined keywords which talks about the growing importance of e-commerce in post-COVID era. But we all know that the popularity of this e-commerce is actually not a new story. All big players like your Amazon, Walmart, all they have been rapidly expanding in last few years. But this COVID-19 situation has actually accelerated that growth of this convenient moment for business of every size, either it's small or big one. So would be looking forward to hear more from our experts on the screen about this topic that yes, how this growing importance of e-commerce is going to be in post-COVID era also. So to start with, I would like to welcome Mr. Vishal Agarwal, who is the National Business Head Big Basket. Vishal has more than 14 years of working experience with retail industry and currently employed at Big Basket, holding the title of National Business Head B2B, and is responsible for whole business unit for B2B market like kiranas, pharmacies, hotel, restaurants, and cafes in India. Welcome, Vishal, to this particular panel. On behalf of Birla Institute of Management, I welcome you to this forum.
Thank you. Thank you,
Now,
Doctor.
thank you so much. Now I would like to welcome Mr. Sundarraj, who is the Chief Merchandising Officer, New Commerce Reliance Retail. He is a senior retail professional for more than 2 decades of experience in diverse areas like food and groceries, retailing, startup e-commerce ventures, FMCG and agri commodities too, and experience in running a startup e-commerce business also as business head with P&L responsibility, startup expert with experience in building major retail brands like Food World, Spencer's, Tata, Star Bazaar, all come under with his expertise. And he is also expert in category management area across the categories like staples, FMCG, commodity sourcing, general merchandising, private label supply chain, and vendor management. We welcome on behalf of Birla Institute, Mr. Sundarraj, over to you at this platform of Annual Retail Summit 2020.
Yeah, thanks. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, sir. Now it's the time to introduce Mr. Siju Narayan. Having an experience of 2.5 decades, veteran of consumer and retail sales and marketing in India, and having worked in blue chip Indian and multinational corporations, he has gained experience and expertise in managing various aspects of demand and supply chain. And he has been involved in providing customer organizations in India consulting in technology solutions too, which are help landing the business plans too. So customer experience, powered omni-channel commerce, business collaboration models, strategic design thinking, social impact on retailing, IoT, blockchain are some of the trend that he follows keenly. And today he works with organizations that seek to be an omni-channel customer centric in the truest sense by helping them to put together a credible customer engagement strategy and help build up the integrated application stack that enables a seamless one towards the customer experience across the multi-channel of consumer engagement too. CISO is always a part of thought leadership and industry forums like Retailer Association of India, and he also contributes regularly to the industry magazines and digital forums through articles too. And as I mentioned in the starting, I am also one of the big follower who regularly read his articles. The last article which I read about, which where you have actually talked about decoding of COVID from a customer perspective lens, but I think you have shared only the part one. We are still waiting for part two, or I might have missed that. That we have to need to check. Now, with all this introduction of esteemed panelists on the screen, I think I should hand over to Mr. Siju to take this discussion forward with the topic, which is growing importance of e-commerce in post-COVID era. Over to you, Mr. Siju.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. You've been very, very generous in your description of me, definitely. And thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Manoj Pant, for giving us this opportunity to be here. Thanks a lot to the faculty at BIMTech and to the students. Ayush, thank you so much for that lovely opening. And I hope you enjoy this session as much as we do in getting it to you. So it's always a pleasure. Academia collaboration happens to be very, very high on my agenda, because I firmly believe that if there is someone who can actually do things better, it's actually the generation who will be following us from the colleges, right? And I firmly believe that the world is in safe hands. And coming back to you, Dr. Sharma, talking of the lunch part, trust me, to manage the graveyard shift, there is no better industry than retail.
Okay,
there
great.
cannot be a more interesting industry than retail to manage the graveyard shift. If one falls asleep during a discussion on retail, then we'll probably have to take a closer look at that person.
Indeed.
Jokes apart, it's very ominous. 31st December 2019, which happens to be my little girl's birthday as well. But unfortunately, it'll probably go down in the history of this world as a very dark day, because that's precisely when COVID was actually, kind of discovered and acknowledged as a virus, and that's why it's COVID-19. One more day, and it would have been probably COVID-20. But then it's almost been a year now, and what we've seen since the beginning of March, January, February, and finally with finality by the middle of March, it's been total and instantaneous disruption. Right? There was no warning. It was absolute disruption across all verticals. No vertical was spared. Ways of working and living, both altered overnight, simultaneously. Never ever has an event impacted both working and living in a manner that COVID has done. Many transformations actually got fast forwarded in the last 8-9 months. But unfortunately, not every organization latched onto it. And that's been one of my biggest negative points, but then we'll talk about that in some time. Retail, along with travel, hospitality, was impacted the most. And what evolved was a paradigm for almost every industry worth its salt. Right? And what COVID has also done is, we will not get into the negative aspects of what COVID did, but what it definitely has done is, I've seen a convergence of concepts over the past 9 months. Now, if I were to look at it, I've been working for the past 23, 24 years with some of the large retail organizations as well as technology companies. Digital transformation is mandatory, and it is now. It is not a question of whether it's optional or when can we take it. It is mandatory, it is now. Omnichannel, like it or not, is a reality. Right? I mean, enterprises have dragged their feet. My apologies to the two gentlemen here, but enterprises have really, really dragged their feet when it came to getting omnichannel ready. And as I was speaking to Vishal and Sundar prior to we going live, we were just discussing the Debenham scenario. That's the symbol of high street fashion in the UK and across the world. I mean, it's a sign of it. And look what's happened to it, right? The other aspect that got underlined very, very clearly is supply chain is crucial. Perhaps the most unsexiest of all the functions in retail, but that turned out to be the crucial factor that defined success and separated the folks who succeeded from the folks who failed. Customer experience is the only brand differentiator. This has been established beyond doubt now. The other aspect that came very, very strongly under the arc lights, and for which I am really, really excited, is the fact that employee experience became as important as customer experience. Suddenly, the employees of every organization came under the spotlight, and everyone's trying to scamper and find out ways to make an employee's life better so that they are able to contribute in the right and the optimal manner to the organization's success. Customer experience is everybody's responsibility. It is not the responsibility of the marketing folk. It's not the responsibility of the person who handles the call center calls. It's not the responsibility of the sales. It's everybody's responsibility in an organization. The last 2 points revolve around the role of a CIO. Unfortunately, we couldn't have Prashant, who's a CTO for Being Human, on the panel today. But digital is not only the CIO's responsibility. And enterprises have been been fighting with this whole fight in terms of who should own digital. Someone said it should be the CEO, someone said it should be the CDO, someone said it should be the CIO, and someone said it should be the CMO. But then digital is not only the CIO's responsibility. And last but not the least, since I've been working with some fantastic organizations which provides technology backbones to companies, leading enterprises across the world, there was this entire argument in terms of whether the office of the CIO is strategic, or whether it is only used as keeping the lights on, whether it's just tactical. But now it's actually put beyond doubt that the office of the CIO is a strategic pivot. Not that the other offices are relegated to the background, but then yes, the office of the CIO is important. And last but not the least, since there are the students out here who are listening to us, all functions across the retail enterprise have been affected. There is not a single function which has not been affected. So please look out. Whether it's sales and operations, supply chain, HR and personnel, marketing, IT, technology, customer service, every aspect has been impacted. And when you step out into the real world, once you finish your schooling at the wonderful college that you are attending right now, please be aware of the fact that all these functions have undergone a fundamental change and what people call as a paradigm shift. And for me, I've taken the liberty of actually, making a paradigm which is pandemic ratified digital metamorphosis. And the reason why I say pandemic ratified digital metamorphosis is because the digital transformation journey was on for more than a decade now. And there were enterprises with different speeds who were on that particular journey. But now it's amply clear that everyone has to prioritize it and get onto that journey as soon as possible if they haven't already done so. Right? So to carry forward the discussion further, we have two very eminent panelists, and Dr. Sharma has introduced them. But what I would still love to do is probably give them about 45 seconds or a minute each to kind of explain as to what are they doing right now and what do they see exciting in today's world. So can I start with you, Vishal?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Siju. A quick 45-second introduction. I represent the non-glamour part of retail, which is grocery. So I work for an organization called as Big Basket, which is the #1 online grocery major in India right now. And I look after the professional business of theirs, which means servicing the B2B segment, which includes kiranas, which includes pharmacies, and Horeca, which is hotel, restaurant, catering. And what I'm going to cover and learn from each one of us who's there on the platform is more about what pre-COVID and post-COVID has been, even for a player who has been just online. Big Basket has been a completely online player, so it's not an omni space for us. But what changes have happened across 3-4 broader pillars, including things like supply chain, customer service. I think Siju touched upon it. We're going to cover all those things as we go along. So that's what I take care of right now. And I have experience about 14 years in retail itself.
Thank you so much, Vishal. Sundar, if you could just give us a quick introduction.
Yeah, thanks, Siju. Thanks, team. So great to be part of this discussion. My name is Sundaraj. I head the category management, which is we call it a chief merchandising role. So in this role, I do take care of managing the entire assortment. So what you really get to see on the JioMart platform is what is basically being handled by us. And so obviously, as a part of our role, we handle the entire assortment. We also take care of the vendor management, and we also sort of deal with the internal stakeholders in terms of managing how to reach the products in the best possible way to the end consumer, whether it could be it is kirana or maybe a customer. So obviously, sort of it is an end-to-end kind of a responsibility with the P&L target also. So obviously, we are responsible for delivering margins to the business. So I've been in this role for almost for the last 2 years, and prior to that, I was also in the brick and mortar business in Reliance itself, which is called Reliance Market, which is typically a cash and carry kind of a model, similar to Metro or a Best Price. And also, I was associated in Reliance in the fresh part of the business. And prior to that, also I've been in Spar and various other companies. So I think look forward to interacting with all you guys and sharing my experience, and also would like to learn from all you guys. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sundar. You obviously come with a big breadth of experience across ABRL, Godrej Agrovet, Star Bazaar, and Spencer's, right? And Vishal, you on your part, your experience kind of holds out from Metro Cash and Carry as well as Citibank, right?
Correct.
And both of you come with a wide exposure to consumer behavior across multiple sectors. While your current focus is grocery, but I'm sure you've kind of straddled almost all segments. So what we'll do now next is to dive deep into the discussions, and the whole idea here is to kind of give you a perspective, given your personal experiences in the last 9 months, and how do you find yourself placing yourself to manage the challenges of the next couple of quarters. According to the leading economic indicators, we seem to be on a recovery stage by Q1 of 2021, and we were about minus 62% year on year in August, September. I guess we are at about minus 20 right now overall. While grocery has been an always alive category, never dead. But then you had consumer durables and clothing as well, which were literally dead categories the first 4 or 5 months. And I think I can be pretty optimistic in that we are on the road to recovery, and let's see how far we go. The numbers seem to speak for themselves. But staying with you, Sundar, how have you seen your business pivoting in the last 9 months? Right, I want you to touch upon from a business process perspective, from a customer engagement perspective, from an employee empowerment perspective, and a technology adoption perspective. And the reason why I'm choosing these 4 parameters is because of the audience that we have. They would be very, very keen to understand as to, from a process, people, technology perspective, how has a large organization like Reliance Retail, seen the last 9 months?
Yeah, thanks, Shiju, for the introduction. So quickly to give you a perspective, like Reliance Retail has just been on a year in terms of the e-commerce or whatever the new commerce you can call it as. So we started sometime in December last year, which is the 28th of December, which is our Founders Day. So that is when we actually went live with the pilot program in Mumbai, and then actually scaled it up subsequently. So we also have sort of transgressed or sort of change our business model as we go along. But otherwise, since 2015, Reliance Retail has been doing the e-commerce business in a very small way in 3 of the cities, which is Bangalore, Mumbai, and Pune. So obviously, but actually when we went live in a very big way sometime in December, January this year, or maybe last year. So broadly, to give you a perspective, no one knew that COVID is going to come, which is what you also have sort of said during your inaugural address. And so we sort of had a plan wherein we will sort of scale it up in a very normal way, and we never expected that COVID would come and that sort of spoil all our plans. And as they say, only in adversity, there is an great opportunity. And if you look at the way in the last 50, 60 years of our country, whenever there is an adversity, only we sort of took it as a challenge and became better or overcome that challenge. So we can talk about white revolution, we can talk about green revolution. And today, probably India is one of the country with such a kind of 1.3 billion population. I think we are self-sufficient when it comes to food grains. And I think thanks to our forefathers, our founders, our planners of those days, I think really have sort of done a great job. Even some of the largest countries in the world today are not fully self-sufficient. Even our neighbor like China is sort of dependent on the others to import huge amount of food grains or whatever it is you can. But having said that, like, no, yes, Reliance as an organization has always sort of thrived upon the challenge. And we all know that, like, to give you a perspective, it's all in the common domain. The e-commerce is what a very small portion of the entire consumer consumption part of the business. Not even a 30 billion, and expected to grow several folds in the next 5 6 years. But having said that, like what Vishal is coming from, Big Basket has sort of done a great job in the last 10 years. But still, I think a lot to be done in terms of the business has to be looked at or grown, basically. So there is a huge opportunity for a lot of players into this business, because even with so much happening in the e-commerce space, it's only 3% of our consumption spend or the GDP. I think the entire close to roughly around what the food and grocery volume is expected to be around 600 billion, and it's I think we are just at a very small fraction. And also we all know that, like, no, general trade is still the very big portion of our business, which is our country, which is close to 85 87%, modern trade 10%, and e-commerce, which is the grocery e-commerce or whatever you can call the broadly, the e-commerce is around 3% basically, which is what is the Nielsen report says. And the expectation is that thanks to COVID, I think there would be a rapid adoption of e-commerce, and which is what we at Reliance also are seeing. So having said that, like, no, we started with the new commerce model, which is the B2B2C, where the Kirana would be the center of what we want to do. And we all know that India is one of the largest country with more than what do you call 10 million Kiranas. I think probably the country of retailers we are. And I think we don't have to train or teach our Kiranas in terms of what need to be done or told to them. And they're probably the most entrepreneurial class that we can see, and which is what we all are interacting day in day out. And they're the smartest people, I would say, like, on the earth. And I'm saying, like, 300-400 square feet, they're doing a business of anywhere between 3 to 7 lakhs, 10 lakhs. Some of the best kiranas even do more than that. The kind of ROI they make, the kind of turn they make. So obviously, so at Reliance, the Kirana is sort of wanted to sort of bring them as a part of the ecosystem. And if you have all seen the last AGM where our chairman had said, like, customer is the center of everything that we want to do. And of course, Kiranas and vendors will be the partners who will help us in sort of giving the value to the customer. So that is what is broadly has been the thought. And so having said that, so COVID had come, we were to roll out, of course, the expansions were planned in a particular way. But what really happened during COVID is, like, had we been doing the things in a way as it was originally planned, probably it would have taken more time. Thanks to COVID, like, the management decided to launch it sometime in the month of April, May. And so therefore, like, we have expanded it quickly into all the 200 odd cities where we are present. And probably from a network point of view, we are probably one of the most widespread at this point in time. And also the organization has the benefit of Geo, which is the Reliance Geo network. And more than 50 crore of customer at this point in time is on the Geo platform. And one of the integral part of the strategy is to sort of leverage these customers, and therefore, like, serve the entire country. And sort of in the medium to long term, the objective is to penetrate close to 95% of the Indian consumer market. So broadly, that is what has been the plan is.
Sorry if I might interrupt. So what you're saying is that from a business process perspective, obviously you had to accelerate on certain plans of yours.
Correct.
And that is why we could see the April or a May launch of GeoMart, right?
Correct. Yeah.
You started off with one category, and you're slowly one category, and maybe a couple of geographies, and then now you're pretty much quite quickly scaling up across categories and cities.
Yes. Yeah.
And scale is anyways Reliance's middle name, so I don't think that's an issue anyway. But coming to you, Vishal, Reliance is obviously is not something that I would call a digitally native business. Well, yours is a very digitally native business. Yours is born in digital. Did you see a significant impact on the way you were driving business, post March 17th?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, see, what really impacted all of us was something which defined my background. We were all at home. I mean, that was something which happened instantly by force. That the moment lockdown happened, and when we had the Janta curfew, which was one fine Sunday, and then a couple of days later, complete lockdown for us. What it entailed us, and this is something which is critical for all of us because it has a direct impact on the 4 points on business, customer, employee, and tech, which you touched upon, has a direct impact on all the four factors. So what immediately happened was a situation wherein everybody was at home. There was an uncertainty which hit in to all of us. Uncertainty of food became for the first time India, which is always a supply surplus country with respect to food, became a situation wherein people started having a question in terms of how do I manage my provisions. So Big Basket has been into grocery for very beginning. We've been there in the business now for about 9.5 years. However, we were stuck with a couple of challenges. So I'll just talk about the four factors you touch upon business processes. So the first thing which came to us was that we had a particular set of people. So we are an organization which is about 30,000 odd employees right now. 95% of employees are blue collar employees, right? Which means you need people on the ground who are working. So day one, 60% people don't turn up to you. So you have a situation wherein on a demand side of it, you had a 10x, 20x kind of a demand coming on your platform because we are already online. People want to secure, people want to hoard their essentials, basically, because there was always a question mark in terms of how the supply chain would really touch upon, which is the unsung heroes of retail. But then there was a question mark in terms of how do we supply. So we had a problem wherein we lost 60% of our workforce in the first 1 week of COVID shutting in. People went to their hometown. They were just not moving out. So on the business side of it, we saw, I mean, demand being 10x, and from a manpower perspective, which was we need people on the ground to pick, pack, and deliver to our customers, not being there. So it has a huge challenge for us. Second, there was a huge challenge on customer behavior, wherein the entire aspect of maintaining distance started happening. We don't want to meet anybody. We don't want to meet an alien. There was an aspect of contactless delivery which came up. Big Basket was used to delivering, coming to your kitchen. I mean, we used to give grooming lessons to our employees at how to enter a kitchen, and suddenly that doesn't exist. You have to maintain a physical distance. It has a huge impact on behaviorally how you manage your employee, which is a part of a topic on employee empowerment and engagement, which will come in there. So we moved to a contactless delivery, which means the entire aspect of training with the team. So you knew that there is a demand. People will come to Big Basket and order. We need to ensure that we provide what a customer required. So we had to change ourselves. There was cash on delivery was shut. People were not ready to exchange physical currencies as well. So we had moved completely to digital technology. We were taking cash. We had to shut that operations completely. That means 100% of transaction moved from to completely digital currency. We moved completely to contactless delivery. Those were the broader level discussions which were there. On the business processes, we also had a certain aspect wherein the way of doing the same business became very different. We moved from a 40,000 assortment which we carry otherwise on a platform, and life was just on essentials. So we shrunk our assortment to about a 5,000 assortment. Those were the steps that we undertook to cover a lot of supply chain efficiency that we can focus on. So on the customer side of it, since there was a space of hoarding, and there was always a case wherein the demand was more and the supply was lesser. We moved to a concept called as a token system in our business. Now, imagine in India, wherein with such a brilliant retail network, India is such a beautifully well distributed market in a way with a lot of kirana stores there. However, there are players who are getting into a token system of getting into a certainty for us. So we, as an organization, went through that because it will give certainty to a customer. The token basically told them that we will going to deliver to you in next 2 days or 3 days time. It gave him some certainty. We moved into a lot of processes changes from a multi-slot orders in a day to a single 1 day window, because we knew everybody's at home. Nobody's moving out. So there's no point telling them you can deliver in between 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We moved all of that. We moved into a single day window wherein we aggregated more orders. We supply to them. We went into new models of apartments complexes that, hey guys, we understand there's been challenge. It's very, very difficult because people are finite. There are restrictions coming in. How do we manage it? So we made a concept called an apartment wherein all the apartments could get together, order, and then we deliver to them. So there were a lot of changes which were done in a short run to bring in and be more adaptive towards the business side of it, which had a direct implication on the technology as well.
So can I, if you could just hold your thought there, Vishal.
Sure.
Now, coming to what Vishal mentioned, Sundar, was essentially around the rationalization of SKUs or stock keeping units for the benefit of the students who are here. I'm sure you are aware that SKUs is a short form for that. So one of the primary things that that was an impact across the world and across categories has been the rationalization of SKUs. For example, you talked about scaling down from 40,000 SKUs to 5,000 SKUs. We had the Lulu group in GCC, which scaled down from about 150,000 SKUs to about 25,000 SKUs. And that was necessary to manage the entire supply chain aspect of it. Sundar, yours for the first 2 or 3 months, correct me if I'm wrong, apart from the grocery part of it, everything else was a zero velocity business, right? I mean, there wasn't anything happening on that front. So did the rationalization of SKUs concept hit you as well? Did it hit you as well?
Yeah, of course, it's common, similar to what Vishal has sort of articulated. So if you look at again, the challenge is not only for one player. Of course, it is across the chain. Even the manufacturers, we know, many of them who are in the COVID affected region have shared. If anyone found with COVID, the factories or the facilities were quarantined. And in the initial 2, 3, 4 months, up to I remember up to the month of June, July. In fact, I was in touch with almost all the heads of sales of all the major FMCG companies, and they were all saying no, it's going to get normal only by end of September, October, which is what seems to be right now. And no, all these companies also have sort of prioritized, rationalized their own assortment. So obviously, yes, there is a challenge in terms of manpower across the channel, especially like what Vishal talked about in terms of pick pack, because e-commerce is all about moving everything to the back end, whereas in a typical brick and mortar, the customer goes to the store and picks for him or herself actually. So in this case, obviously, the manufacturer have sort of reduced their assortment. So I would say even the largest player like HUL have reduced their assortment by almost more than 1/3, which is what I heard actually, and which is what we also have experienced. Similarly, all the major players and everyone had to and across the country, obviously the transportation also was not fully working. There were a lot of blockades at very different points points in the country. So everyone sort of prioritized and used their resources to make only the core articles, or what they call it as typically the KV articles, or the HL usually calls it as Q0, Q1 type of articles. So I think, of course, everyone focused, prioritized, use their resources to their best of ability. So obviously, one is conditioned upon or force fitted based on the situation around you. So obviously, you have to reduce your assortment and see what best you can do to sort of serve the customer. So I think we also have sort of worked with a very limited assortment. Otherwise, width is what we were also planning to go out with, which currently we are planning again to sort of increase the width. Is what. So I think similar experience.
What about the non-food and grocery sectors? Do you see a rationalization happening there, or are you sure to manage with what?
Yeah, it's across. Actually, if you look at I am not handling the non-food part of the Geomart business, but of course I can sort of have some basic understanding. But there also, if you can see, all those categories have not been sort of really been much in demand, except for the very core categories which a customer would like to want. I also handle general merchandise as part of my portfolio. And what I could see is categories like staples or the core FMCG categories, to name it, only 3 or 4 categories in FMCG food really sells well. I think like typically the tea, biscuits, noodles are the top three categories. And when it comes to home and personal care, it is typically the laundry and the household cleaning, which is because of the COVID, people want to keep their home places hygienic. So those are the categories which have got built traction, and we could see sort of a deceleration in rest of the categories. So customers also like like not only in the metros or the bigger towns, even the rural markets, like sort of there are a lot of joblessness. So people want to prioritize, ration their budgets.
Of
So
course.
obviously people have spent their money on mass and popular articles, and you can see a huge slowdown in terms of the premium range of articles. So
Sure.
I think even a brand like Nestle, we could see like they have not been able to offer you the range, and then they were only supplying you the core articles. Like so it's across the spectrum. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. And in that, in a certain sense, that actually puts a focus on the role of analytics, data analytics, and understanding data, and making sure as to how do you plan. Obviously, now you don't do a 1 year plan or a 2 year plan. You're trying to figure out how do you plan for a quarter at the most, right? So you really got to be brave. Like people are on the lookout for people who actually wrote the horoscopes for 2020, right? So nothing really is sacred anymore. Now coming back to Vishal, on the customer engagement perspective, digitally native business, so people engage with you on the digital platform. What are the special things that Big Basket do rather during the pandemic period to maintain that engagement, or was the engagement only transaction, or did you go beyond transactions and get into employee engagement in a proactive manner?
Sure.
Sorry, customer engagement.
On the customer side of it, there were huge amount of changes because there was a lack of there was the entire uncertainty was on the customer side of it, and the whole nation actually was in a way looking at the online grocers to help them on their business. So a business which is about 1.5% of the overall grocery ecosystem was in a way for those cities wherever they're present was supposed to service the 100% of the market. I mean that kind of opportunity came up during that period. That means if a player the expectations of people were like that. So we had a huge amount of search coming on our platform. A lot of new customers came on our platform, and people who are not used to downloading our app and actually trying to service our app also were people who are downloading the app. So let me just give you a few examples around it. So we are there in about 27 cities right now in India. Okay, and we have seen different cities behaving differently. A tier 1 city behaves very, very different to a tier 2 city, and a tier 3 city behaves very differently. However, when this thing happened, everybody came on a common platform. They just need their groceries, right? So certain things which were done by our organization was first give them certainty of supplies. So we came into the system of slot, which was certainty of token system. That means each person was rationalized so that people don't hoard stocks. They were given a token that, okay, you can come and order during that time window when we'll ensure that we block the stocks for you or open a slot for you that you can order, thereby giving them certainty side of it. What we also did was we did something especially for the senior citizen, because there are a lot of people who are staying as couples who are not used to technology, however are used to ordering on phone from their neighborhood kirana. However, they couldn't move out as well during that period. So what we did was we ensured that our customer service takes their orders, okay, by taking their email IDs which they register, or their children would have registered themselves, put that as an address and order on their behalf. I mean, those are the, I mean, as an example, what we did, and trust me, I mean, these things add a lot of value to a child when you see that your parents' households are taken care of. So we did that. We went to a concept which is called an apartment complex, wherein we could aggregate all the demand and service the customer. That was again done for the customer side of it. We moved into completely contactless delivery. Certain grooming and hygiene standards were supposed to be improved on our side for our employees, so that the customer sees us as people who are not in a way spreading COVID by touch or some way or the other, because there was a huge amount of hysteria in terms of what COVID is. I mean, does it spill to air? Does it have a droplet effect? I mean, today we have some signs on that. April month we did not have. Okay, so all of this we were grappling with during that period, and those were the kind of thing that we try to do. We were also communicating continuously. I think what we realized that during this period, even if you are not able to solve 100% of the customer problem, it is important to communicate with your customers, right? We were on a constant level communicating to them on our supply chain, on our back end, because what was important was securing fruit and vegetables and staples, which is the center of the plate. The discretionary side of grocery or any other segment, it could be, I mean, you touched upon a retail sector because the team here is retail. There's a travel retail, there is apparel, there is jewelry. Those were not in the consideration at all. Okay, all what was important was to secure your food supplies. Okay, even in that, the entire focus was on essentials. So the entire focus with customers was to just give them an experience that we can secure your essentials. They were not interested whether I can sell them a Mac or a Lakme eyeliner or even a shampoo bottle during that time period. What was important is I can service them on their atta dal chawal. I can service them on their fruit and vegetables, and I can really get that piece right and consistently right and communicate with them that by when it can be serviced to them. So those were the kind of changes we did, and the entire organization focus was do more with less because everything was curtailed. Okay, every supply chain was disrupted purely because of people not being there, and it was manufacturing was not working. Okay, so that was the changes we saw.
Sundar, from a Reliance perspective, how did you go about on the customer engagement piece? Was it only the transaction, or did you go well and beyond that? Because there is a reason why I'm asking this, is because of what I saw in the first 4 or 5 months of the way things were being ordered. Yeah, Sundar.
Yeah. So just to give you a perspective, pre-COVID and post-COVID, yes, pre-COVID, I think in 200 odd locations and also in our B2B business, so Reliance has got two legs of the business. One is the B2B business where we go and serve the Kirana, and Kirana serves the customer. And the B2C business is where the customer walks into the store and then obviously picks up what he or she wants. Yeah, post-COVID, what happened? I think all of us were in the similar situation. We never wanted to visit a store because of the fear of catching the COVID. So obviously, we would like to order online, which is what Vishal talked about. And of course, Reliance also took a big plunge and then expanded it to all the 200 markets. So what we did is initially to just keep it simple. Yes, we are sort of doing it quickly. We launched certain ration kit or essential SKUs kit, which is typically the rice, pulse, edible oil, sugar, salt, and sort of we had 2 to 3 different types of ration kit which a customer can order and then sort of quickly get it delivered. What we have seen is a huge drop in walk into our stores, and not only for us, for all the brick and mortar players. And therefore, this has really helped, and our store teams were utilized to sort of of course, most part of it has been done at the back end, but even the stores were sort of prioritizing and focusing in terms of serving the basic needs of the customer. So that is what it is. But we also have seen there is a huge surge in the way the customer consumes items like fruit and veg, because we are one of the largest in terms of network, having fruit and vegetable network in the country. And we also have seen there is a swing in terms of the essentials or the basics. And the communication here to the Kirana is basically no, don't worry. Yes, obviously, and also to the customers is we are here to take care of your basics or essentials, and then we can order. And then we also partner with Netmeds. Netmeds is which is a former retail. So we have sort of been able to quickly scale up, and we could get a huge traction on this count actually. So of course now that what you're seeing is much better version of the Geomart B2C that you're looking at. But also I have to talk to you about the Kirana part of the business, which is what Reliance is currently engaging upon in a very big way. And we are in 26 locations at this point in time. And we serve more than a lakh Kirana on a daily basis at this point in time. And from a Kirana point of view, we know that we were probably the only service provider in many of these markets where we were operating, where distributor is not willing to go and serve, and because distributor salesman or the supply man have sort of ran away to his gaon, and therefore there is nobody to serve. So Reliance was in a position to sort of fulfill the gap created by this, and we sort of serve the customer in many markets where we were operating, and we sort of ramped up our operation during this period, from a one city, two city operation to a 27 location operation as we speak of, and to sort of take care of the entire kirana and therefore the kirana to serve the customer. And we also have used the medium of WhatsApp and other SMS medium to communicate to the customer that yes, we are here to sort of take care of your needs, and therefore you can get your requirements from the neighborhood kirana. So, and we in fact like ran campaign in WhatsApp, which some of you might have been aware of during the month of April, May, June, and during that time. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the usage of channels like WhatsApp has intensified over the last 9 months, and and now with WhatsApp Pay, I guess it's going to be much larger. But one thing I want to ask you is, did either of you reach out and tell consumers, look, this is what a tinda vegetable looks like, and this is what you can do of it? Did you engage to that point wherein you said, okay, this is a recipe, you're ordering this from me, okay, now here are a few things that you can make. The reason why I'm asking is, I'm part of a large society group of 600 odd people, or 600 odd flats. Some of the questions that used to come up was simply amazingly hilarious. Someone used to paste a picture of a vegetable and say, what the hell is this? Right? One guy actually said, hey, tinda kya hota hai? Uska English mein kya bolte hain? Now, looking at it, while it sounds very hilarious, it sounded very hilarious then, it was very, very amply clear, right? Both sexes, men and women, because of the kind of construct that we are in today, right? We really, some of the folks are not really aware of the vegetables that are there or what can be made out of it.
Yep.
A simple dal was a huge challenge, right? And I'm talking of a pre-Swiggy, pre-Zomato time also, because there was a time when Swiggies and Zomatos were not even allowed to deliver into societies, right? And there was a mind-numbingly crunch time of 1.5 or 2 months where people really had to figure out what do they eat. So did you folks, yes or no? I mean, very short answers. Did you get to the point of engagement where you said, you know what, you buy this from Big Bazaar or Big Basket, sorry, and this is what you can make out of it, and this is the recipe?
So the answer is yes, but it was there pre-COVID as well. Okay. Was there some additional focus with that? Only one category on baking that we did, because that was a completely new category which came into households, because many people could do that in their free time, and there was ample enough free time during this period in the initial part of it for people. So did that one category in focus. All the other generic categories, we already follow a recipe model for us. If they buy something from us with masalas and vegetables and others, what all they can make out of it. So there was a continue towards it, but we made a lot of focus on bakery.
No, absolutely. And I guess just about anyone and everyone was a baker.
Yeah. I mean, there were tons of brands which got launched during that time period.
Yeah, absolutely. You had a baker in every house. So
you had a baker in every house, yeah.
Now, since we are running a little short of time, quickly on the employee engagement program, did you guys do anything significantly different during this COVID period in terms of employee engagement, from their training perspective, from enabling them with technology, anything that comes to your mind?
I think if I can take the lead here, I think the first thing what we wanted to secure was safety and security for the team, because there was a huge amount of, as an organization, it was the first thing to take care of that. Once we did that as a piece, it was business process re-engineering, because the entire way of picking, packing, engaging had a huge impact. It has changed. I mean, your canteen was not at all a canteen anymore. It was, people are sitting now at a distance, which was an engagement point with your employees. I'm talking about blue collar employees. Suddenly became a situation wherein people are sitting 2 meters away. I mean, it is a place of engaging. It became a place of distance. So there's a huge amount of role of training came into picture, that how it is not just them, but them along with their families. It is our responsibility at Big Basket, because it's a fairly decent size of employee size that we have right now as an organization, that was supposed to be done. So a lot of emphasis was given on training side of it. The empowerment as such, we were still running with our processes, which we did, which was centrally designed. So there was no empowerment in a way which was designed locally, because we wanted to have consistent customer experience from that perspective. However, safety was one key aspect for them. Technology wise, we were already there. So we were using safety as a key parameter with employee engaging. So So that's from a blue collar space. From a corporate side of it, it was about how do we manage our the think tanks sitting at a distance. So there was, I mean, everything became virtual. So how do we ensure that people, I mean, are working in an environment which is at home, but their mind is in their office. Okay, their mind is still the team. However, physically they are in somewhere else. So there were a lot of engagement drives as an organization. We end up doing, but the first task, this was not in the month of April. It was started in the month of May, because the first thing was to get the entire human resources agenda was to get employed, because we had about a 60% attrition. So after resting that, we went into corporate employee engagement, and huge amount of exercise have been undertaken around that. There are certain things which are permanent in nature as well, which we have seen now. I mean, we have we.
I'll come to that in the
Sure.
next aspect of things.
Sure.
And quickly turning over to Sundar very quickly. I mean, I'll just twist this a little. One of the major impacts of the COVID pandemic, while a lot of us do not acknowledge it right now, is on the mental health of people.
Yeah.
And has Reliance, put up in place a structure or an infrastructure that kind of provides support from a mental health perspective for its employees, wherein it could be a call center, it could be just a call up and feel happy about it kind of a center. I don't know. I mean, I'm just
Yeah. No, so good that you've raised that point. So I think I know people who have worked in Reliance would definitely vouch for it. So employees are at the center of what the Reliance does, and I should recollect like probably one of the large conglomerate in India, like been allowed everyone to work from home right from the day one. Like I remember March 15th or 18th itself is the first time, and no, everyone has been asked to start working from home. Our HR has been extremely proactive and asked us, no need to come to office. It is at across all levels. So obviously, we people who were in the corporate office were lucky enough to sort of start working from home. Of course, the challenge was in sort of how do we make our customer service associates or working in the physical store, or the customer sales officer who goes to the kirana, how can we sort of make them feel confident, feel safe, feel engaged. So obviously, of course, everyone's health checkup was being taken care, and all of them were given protective gears, and no, all were given preventive medicines, and they were also made to come on an alternative week basis, so that like they're not constantly exposed to this COVID thing. Even all our facilities were sort of disinfected, maintained to the best of its standards. Even vendors are sort of even trained. So I think that is broadly from a employee point of view. And one of the most important thing which Reliance did, and management was very kind enough to allow all the people, especially the people at the back office, at the back end, to work from their nearby, move to the migrate or go back to the native places. So if you look at like the Reliance Corporate Park in Mumbai, has got almost 30,000 people coming in day out. And I think my gut feel is maybe 50% of them would be from outside Mumbai. And Reliance have allowed them to go back to their native places, work from their homes, so that obviously during this very challenging time, they would definitely like to have the benefit of like their families being around them. And all of them were provided with laptops, and net connectivity, and so that is being sort of from a infrastructure point of view, that is being taken care. From a you talked about being yeah, some kind of a calling facility. So Reliance has got a well established what do you call, reach out to a model wherein like in case of challenge you can call it a refers, REFERS, and they've got emergency helpline, and then immediately then you can approach to a doctor, or could be assuming that your vehicle is stranded somewhere, you can reach out to a towing guy who can sort of help you out. So I think that infrastructure is always there. You can talk to your own bosses to get yourself sort of help, counsel you. And there was a cadence call, which is because we are all working remote and work should not suffer, and sort of a very structured and very good way of sort of meeting with teams. So we have all have sort of culturally fallen into place, starting from morning to evening without disturbing their own personal and official time. And also there was a sort of a great gesture from the organization not to make employees work beyond a particular hour, maybe after 7 or 8 o'clock, so that people can spend more time with their families. I think those are the things that Reliance has done to engage people. And I would say, like, no, the productivity has sort of gone up manifold during this time, and people were mostly engaged during this period than probably during any other time.
That's nice to hear, because this is one of the aspects which is typically not acknowledged very openly, and it's very important that they have their mental health on the right.
CJ, just on mental health, we have a formal program called as Mitra that we have launched during this period, and which is basically a friend to take care of the mental health as a key factor. So just to be direct on that. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. I think that's wonderful. Because when we are talking about this entire structure called the omnichannel, we are not debating whether omnichannel is going to remain or not. I mean, obviously it is, right? So there's no point. There's no point in. And is there a growing importance? Yes, there is the growing importance, because the brands which haven't really jumped onto the omnichannel bandwagon have paid a price. Like we were discussing, Debenhams, 242-year-old, massive major. No one even thought that they would get into financial trouble as well as existential trouble. And today, I think by Christmas of this year, they would have laid off about 120,000 people and closed around 240 stores. And the curtains are going to come down on Debenhams. And of course, apart from the fact that high rentals, some wrong decisions have been all party to their downfall. What's also crucial is they did not take on or jump onto the omnichannel bandwagon as quickly as the others did. And they also had to face nimble competitors like Primark, right? And I'm not even looking at the business decisions, some of which could be termed faulty, but then purely from the aspect of a delay of getting onto the omnichannel bandwagon, Debenhams is paying a very, very high price, and high street retail in that manner is losing a star, right?
Yeah, iconic brand going down the drain.
And while it is sad, it is also a stern reminder to everybody that they need to adapt to how customers are changing. They need to adapt to changing customer needs. True. Digital payments is on the rise. I mean, we've seen the numbers, right? UPI numbers are crazy. 1.2 billion transactions last November to 2 billion transactions this November. I mean, that's a massive, massive jump, and things are only going to look up from here. So obviously, the adoption of technology has to be in line with all the omnichannel engagements that we're talking about. Now that since we are almost beyond time, any last parting words in terms of how you are, at least, to start with, you are looking at driving the omnichannel train over the next 2 quarters, and any words of advice for students who are here, because I'm sure like we said, all aspects of business are changing. They need to skill themselves continuously. So 2 things that you want to live with in terms of for the students.
So I mean, I can start.
Yeah.
Is it okay? Cool.
Yeah.
So Big Basket is not an Omni, so we will remain online only as an organization. So very, very clearly, online movement is a reality. It's no more a space wherein it's good to have, must to have. It is a must to or need to have, because thanks to technology, thanks to data, which is so cheap in India, it's actually virtually free right now. Jio has played a part in that as well. Okay, with data and smartphones being so cheap available, and with technology being so readily available, e-commerce will only grow up, and it is just scratching the surface right now. So 2020, 2030, because all the students who are there right now, trust me, this next decade will be a decade of online trade, moving from just a tier 1 larger driven operations to tier 2, tier 3, as well as villages in India. I think that's the first thing that will happen, which means good news for all of us here right now as students, that retail in India will grow. India is an internal consumption economy. These are the short-term hits that we have seen it right now. Trust me, it will bounce back. So Retail has a direct principle to economics. We have seen a sluggish economy in the first 2 quarters. It has had an impact on discretionary retail space, right? It will go away. We are bouncing back faster than what it is required. It's a very sharp V curve which is there. So it's an industry which is for future. It is an industry wherein people will move from unorganized space to the organized space, where I'm sure all of us want to be a part of it. So it's a great industry to study. All I can also tell you is that whether you are just starting right now your careers, or somebody is with over 2 decades or 3 decades, please be a student of retail. Please always see trends emerging which are there, because that will make constant right steps towards your professional career. Always look at the right triggers where the economy is moving towards. It will help you to take those better decisions for yourself on the career. That would be my advice. Retail is here to stay, and it will be a flourishing career for you, all of you. I can tell you that.
Any particular subsector within retail or any functional area within retail that you're particularly optimistic about? And
so I think in a short run, though there will be the aviation and the discretionary side of it got impacted. I think that will bounce back starting 6 months from now. I think it will bounce back. Grocery, which is basic apparels, groceries and all, mobiles, electronics, you're going to see a further moving from an unorganized to organized. So grocery will become a larger part of it, because grocery is still a very small part of the entire online space. So you'll see a bigger surge coming in grocery as a sector. So there will be brands like a Geo or a Big Bath will keep on hiring people, be it on the management side or on the side of blue collared employees. For us, I personally feel that we would have a growth coming in both in the on the apparel as well as electronics as well. I think the physical side of electronic will further shrink now because of higher rentals, real estate being a bigger challenge. I think that will further move to online again. So I think these are two shifts which I see happening it right now. Jewelry and others will, I mean, the other discretion, which is a higher bill value transaction, that will still take some 12-15 months to come up. But I mean, I would see these 2-3 sectors really growing faster.
Thanks so much, Vishal. Very quickly, Sundar, the last 2 minutes for you in terms of what is it that you have in terms of an advice for the students as we move into the next stage of retail?
Yeah, so the future is digital. I think, physical retail plus digital, actually, which is online or offline, is what is going to be the future. While, yes, e-commerce or online commerce is going to grow manyfold, but physical commerce is going to be there. And India is going to be still largely be a general trade driven market. I think I don't see that is changing any soon in future. And but having said that, like yes, as a practitioner or as a student, I would recommend them to look at the online commerce or e-commerce or digital commerce, whatever you want to call it as, in its entirety. And if somebody is a student of retail, for example, like there are a lot of other new avenues, or even I myself is sort of learning at this point in time, is usually the technology and commerce intermingling point of view. Like artificial intelligence is one area, is sort of being very big. The supply chain interface, now people talk about blockchain and so how do we manage, how do we sort of, OTTs again sort of becoming a very big thing in the commerce space. I think therefore, so if you are a very discerning student, I think there are huge opportunities in e-commerce space. I myself have personally worked in the Geomart business with a lot of young leaders who had come and added value to my own personal being, and the kind of and they're all from top B schools like BIMTech. And I would say I think the areas like artificial intelligence, supply chain management. Supply chain is going to be the most crucial part of the business. I think somebody in retail can definitely be look at sort of how to see that from a different point of view, because ultimately you're moving everything from a physical to a back end, and sort of how efficiently can you sort of serve the customer at the lowest cost is what is going to make this business a different. So that is a huge opportunistic area. Customer interface or customer service is going to be, because you are going to be invisible, dealing with your customer invisible. And anybody who is interested in marketing can think of how to sort of reach out to the customer in a very remote kind of an environment, and therefore like the customer service marketing is a huge opportunity area according to me. I think again the category management or merchandising management, supplier management is also a huge opportunity area. And I think definitely retail would need a lot of, I myself have few of the BIMTech management trainees in my team, and all amazing talent that we have got. Uh, I think I keep reading like no, Indian retail business is going to be a $1 trillion soon, and I think if that is so, then probably it will be 30-40% of the entire GDP. I think that is going to happen. So huge opportunity for anyone who is practicing in this field, and I think all the best to all the students who are in retail business.
Fantastic. And in the last as parting remarks, if I had 20 minutes more time, then I would have started off a digital versus a purely digital war out here between the both. But then okay, I'm also a student of and a big fan of stores as experience centers. So I'm sure students have come to understand that almost every aspect of retail has undergone a change because of the geopolitical changes that tier 1, tier 2 has now moved on to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. And if it's the mobile, there is no tier at all, right? You're on the same page as just about anybody else. So huge area of opportunity for everyone in this field of retail. I think COVID has taught us a few lessons. Some of them are going to be permanent remnants with us as we go along, and they're going to shape our strategy as we go along. I don't think there is a more exciting area than retail. Now, if there are any questions, we would take them right away.
Yes, sir. I think there is one question in Q&A section.
Okay, let me just have a look at that. This is from Vivek Verma. How to deal with inventory control in case whether the online store should remain open even with low inventory status, when the retailer gets exposed to a great risk of canceling certain online accepted orders. Well, I know personally of 2 or 3 brands who went overboard in this period of COVID, where they could not deliver on their online orders because they either did not have visibility to inventory, or even if they did, they had no idea where is it going to come out, right? So very quickly from Vishal, if you don't have inventory, would you keep it out, or would you still take the risk of keeping it there and saying no, I'm sorry, it's not available?
Yeah. So any business. So there are two type of businesses in online. One is inventory, and second is a marketplace model. So this situation will happen more in the marketplace model rather than an inventory-led model. So anybody who has inventory will have a live inventory, and the stock will be only visible. Else it will show out of stock. So there we control the customer experience.
No, I understand. I'll interrupt you there. Now that's true for a pure e-commerce business like yours.
Correct.
But digital, if it's an omni-channel business,
sure.
Unless and until there is a single view of inventory, right, a global view of inventory, we will run into these problems that Vivek talks.
Of course.
So that is why I think if you look at like some part of the inventory in the physical store is reserved for online. So maybe at 10 or 20, 30%. And if it goes below that, like obviously it'll show out of stock on the online space.
Yeah, and Vivek, just to give you a practitioner's view of things from an outside-in perspective of things, the ideal situation would be to have a global view of inventory, a single view of inventory. While that is easier said than done because it calls for a lot of systems integration, and before even system integration, a lot of thought process integration across both the physical and the e-commerce formats. The middle path is what Sundar just mentioned, wherein you reserve inventory for e-commerce specific. Obviously, the most basic is the one that Vishal talked about. If you're digitally native and you're completely aware of all the inventory that you have, then you show it up. But then whether to show it up or not, that's obviously an individual call at that point in time, depending on how well you can fulfill those orders. Right? Yeah. So I hope I have answered your question. I don't see any other questions. Dr. Sharma, what do we do now?
Sir, one question is again there. Someone has posted only to me. That question also I would like that if panelists could answer. That the person has mentioned that as the shopping habits have been changing in near and distant future, specifically when we think about e-commerce, what do you think that our main shopping streets will look like in few months from now?
See, I feel you cannot change a consumer overnight, and digital is going to stay here. And I think if you look at even the cinema theaters have now opened, multiplexes are open. People who have been stuck at home for the last 7, 8 months want to go out and experience, and you can't take away the real life experience. And with vaccine around the corner, I think once people would still want to again go back and experience for themselves. Of course, online, physical commerce, everything will remain hand in hand. Actually, is what I really look at.
So we have another question, Dr. Sharma, which is from Ria Gupta's, which talks about while we talk about the increase in the use of online modes by companies, how will FMCG companies think of targeting that segment which is neither literate nor to have any electronic items? Any one of you want to take it, and then I will probably kind of wrap it up.
Sorry, come back again. What is the question?
So what they're talking about is with the increase in use of online modes, right? How can FMCG companies think of targeting a segment that is not literate or does not have any electronic items with them? That's an assumption that Ria is making, but probably you would want to give a reality check on that.
So, I mean, Ria, firstly, trust me, technology is there to the lowest possible level right now, and thanks to the smartphone being cheaper. The first thing is, the cheaper the smartphone, the cheaper the data, the easier the adoption would be, which is happening in India right now. It will become faster and faster. So it is there. And if you see the smartphone penetration in India, it has gone down to the villages. So it has actually trickled down. 2015, your statement is right. 2020, it has changed completely, in my opinion. I think here it is not the FMCG company, it is actually the retailers who have to really reach out to the customer through either vernacular engagement with the customers in terms of making them not laggards into buying through e-commerce, but proactively moving them from, there's some people who are just not there in terms of moving there. You have to just talk to them in a way through digitally to move them into buying bandwagon, nothing else. It's the ecosystem exists today. I don't think the ecosystem, there is no dearth of ecosystem available for even the lowest of the pyramid to get into e-commerce right now. I think it's about now retailers really moving to that curve, nothing else.
And
I have an interesting point to add here. So this is our real hardcore experience, a very interesting experience. And we, in our B2B to B2C model, which is the Kirana business model, where the Kirana has to sort of take a GeoPOS machine, which is a multifaceted machine, where the customer can order, the Kirana can order on Reliance. He can even order on the distributor. He can make payments. He can maintain customer kata. He can even file GST returns on from that machine. So it's a 360-degree kind of a business POS machine. So initially we thought that there will be a lot of reluctance because generally, typically, who runs a Kirana shop is typically anybody who was very low in terms of education level, of course, high in terms of commercial IQ. But we thought that like these guys may not be really be well versed in using POS. But over a period of time, we are seeing like they're experts in using POS, and many times like we could see like the huge percentage of order used to come after they close their shop. They take the POS to their home. They look at what is there special for them, and sort of like order. So we are seeing there is a huge change in the way the Kirana even orders or behaves. Otherwise, like all of us know that like the Kirana generally sits in his shop gala. The distributor salesman goes or the company salesman goes once in a week or once in a fortnight, and he looks at the inventory on the shelf and then he orders. And I think that the distributor salesman himself takes the order and goes. The Kirana doesn't do anything. But here we are seeing a huge shift in the Kirana behavior, where he is taking the pains of looking at what is there special on the platform and ordering, and therefore it's a huge opportunity. This is where we at Reliance are using a lot of push methods in terms of sending specialized communication to Kirana, either through WhatsApp or on the machine or through banners. I think we communicate saying these are the special kind of articles or SKUs. And one of the important category which we all know, which is sort of gone, which got introduced recently and have gone manifold, is the health and immunity category, including the masks and so a lot of us are now getting into a lot of immunity related items which self prescribed which can be bought across the counter. So I think Kiranas have sort of taken into that. And the recent example is a category like honey, which is very lowly penetrated. You can see like 10 times growth in terms of those kind of categories if you sort of rightly place it in front of the Kirana or the customer.
And
Just,
just to add, what you've touched upon is what is now coming up as a model in focus, which is D2C, direct to consumer. And that's what a lot of FMCG brands and a lot of service brands are also looking at. Like Vishal mentioned, don't worry, the penetration of smartphones is so high in a country like India, and it's just going to increase. Last but not the least, even if there is a segment which is not capable of placing the order, remember what happened during IRCTC days when you had small kiosks which came up and would place the orders on behalf of 10 families or 12 families or whatever. So the demand part of it is not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is the supply part of it, because when a remote tier 4, tier 5 village in Maharashtra or Karnataka places an order, how will a Vishal or a Sundar fulfill that order profitably in the timeline that is promised and in the timeline that the consumer wants is the big challenge.
Absolutely. Well summed up.
And that's a big challenge. Otherwise, I don't see any other challenge so far. Very quickly, Dr. Sharma, what is the future of retail in 5 years? Chirag, brilliant, absolutely bright, so bright you will need to put on your goggles every day of your life. You have to see retail. No, honestly, we are a consumption economy. India is huge in terms of consumption. It's huge in terms of technology adoption. Is huge in terms of brains in the retail sector. No two ways about it, right? Last one, Sumit, with supply chain getting overhauled for majority of FMCG companies, outlet fill rate for distributors have been consistent pain point. It has been hovering around 50-60% for majority. How companies should deal with it? Well, it's an age-old problem. Fill rate is always an age-old problem. Multiple parameters, come into picture. But yes, supply chain. And a very short answer to that is, there is no direct answer to that. Honestly, Sumit, there is no magic pill that can be given here. The only thing is reliance on data analytics, understanding the demand and supply patterns is very, very crucial, and creating a resilient and robust supply chain system, which as we go along, we haven't touched on it in this session, and which can call for a complete session in itself, is about a supply chain that is collaborative, right? Wherein Vishal uses Sundar's supply chain, Sundar uses Vishal's supply chain. That kind of a collaborative supply chain is something that will probably come in on a later point in time. So till that time, we will just get better at these fill rates. But yeah, this is a perennial problem, if I might say. I know that was somewhat a roundabout answer to you, Sumit, but happy to engage with you one-on-one later. But since we are running out of time, Dr. Sharma, I think I'll hand it over to you now. It was a fantastic discussion. Thank you so much, Vishal. Thank you so much, Sundar, for giving your perspectives on the issues that we faced in the first 9 months and how we're going to face the next 2 quarters. I'm sure you've given enough food for thought for the students of the institute, and I'm sure they will look forward to adopting retail as their career of choice. Dr. Sharma, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Actually, very engaging discussion has also happened. Really, very truly, you all have touched to the point that adaptability is now the key. It can make a difference either going back to the business or going out of the business. What new thing has been entered, actually what we are seeing also from a customer's perspective too, that health and safety which consumers are looking at, customer experience was also always on the top. Now only the time has come where online and offline have to bridge up and take care of this customer experience as well as their health and safety too. Thank you so much for this engaging session. I also hand it over to Ayush because they have also planned a small Q&A session for the attendees. Now, I believe they'll be asking few questions to the attendees so that they can win exciting prizes post this session discussions too. Over to you, Ayush.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you to all the panelists. It was an insightful discussion indeed. And now we have reached the point for which many delegates are waiting. Yes, it's the Q&A round. Dear all attendees, please be ready to answer a couple of questions for Q&A round. A request to all attendees, please listen to the rule carefully. Yes, I repeat, please listen to the rules carefully. All answers should reach us through the Q&A sections on your screen only. The answer given in the chat box will not be considered. A standard format should be used to answer, and that is type the correct answer, your name, and then your email address. I repeat, correct answer, name, and then the email address. You will get 40 seconds to answer the question, and if we won't get the answer within the first 45 seconds, the next question will be asked. The final call about who is the winner will be with the host only, keeping all the parameters like correct answer, correct format, time limit, and reaching an answer to the host. Hope the rules are clear to all. So let's have our first question. And the question is, your beauty, our passion is the tagline of. I repeat, your beauty, our passion is the tagline of. 20 seconds to more. Time's up, guys. So now I will repeat the second question. Big Basket collaborated with which delivery app? I repeat, Big Basket collaborated with which delivery app? 20 seconds to go. Time's up, guys. And now I will ask the last question. Big Basket, no. McDonald's encourage users to indulge their favorite meals via takeaway option in which country? I repeat my question. McDonald's encouraged users to indulge their favorite meals via takeaway option in which country? 10 seconds to go. Thank you, guys. We have received the answer. Thank you all for your participation. Please note that we will announce the name of the winners for this Q&A round 2 and Q&A round 1 as well very soon. Stay tuned to show the result and grab the Amazon voucher worth 1000. Please note that you will not get this award in absentee. If our team found you absent from the attendee list, the prize will be handed over to the next on the list. Looking forward to your presence. And now I will hand over it to Dr. Veenu ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ayush. And now, though I had mentioned earlier also that really the panel 2 discussion was very engaging, but in a very formal note and as a tradition at BIMTech, I really want to thank in a formal way once again to all the panelists on the screen, including the moderator of the session also, that when we are planning for this such kind of event, it is actually imperative to gain the participation of the experts in the field also, and your willingness to share your views your with the time and your expertise in this area really means a lot to all of us. And I really believe the students, those who have heard from you, would have gained a valuable insight. And yes, as Mr. Siju was mentioning again and again, the future for the retail is always bright, and there is no need to worry about it. There is a positive experience they are going to get being in this industry. Then we are also hoping for the same, that yes, our students definitely will be the one that energetic upcoming retailers to this retail industry, those who will share their maximum of the input so that it's fruitful for the industry also, and industry is also fruitful back to them too. Thank you so much all once again. Over back to you, Ayush. Thank you.
No duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. Now I would like to invite Dr. Pankaj Priya, Area Head Retail and Marketing, to extend the vote of thanks and announce the winner for the question asked during the panel discussion and mind quiz.
Thank you, Ayush. Good afternoon, all. As the area head marketing and retail, I am extremely grateful to Mr. Siju Narayan, Mr. Vishal Agarwal, and Mr. Sundaraj for sparing their valuable time and indulging in a very deep discussion on this critical issue where you talked about that how there is no option beyond adapting to the change scenario and utilizing technology in retail. But what is more important in the evolving e-commerce ecosystem, it is the phygital which stands out. That is, both are relevant in the present ecosystem. So I again extend my gratitude to all of you on behalf of the Center for Retail, Birla Institute of Management Technology, sir. Thanks. Now I will proceed to announce the winners who have been waiting for this. So the first quiz was MindFizz. MindFizz was conducted on a Dare to Compete platform. This platform has collaborated with us. They were one of our partners, and it has been a great success. And we received 500 plus participants and nearly 1 lakh views. Now, 165 participants were shortlisted for the first round of the quiz, which includes participants from Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Lucknow, Calcutta, and FMS Delhi, Delhi University, and many more colleges. Now I'll be announcing the winners and the runners-up. The winner of the quiz for this were number 1, Akshit Singh from Shriram College of Commerce, University of Delhi. And the first runner-up is Dipanshu Gupta from Hindu College, University of Delhi. Many congratulations to both of you, dear. And winner and the runner-up will get a prize money of 10,000 and 5,000 respectively. All the participants of the quiz who will receive a participation certificate and an appreciation certificate will be given to those who have qualified for round 1. Now coming to question and answer, which were asked in between. So the question and answer of the first session was as follows. First 2 rounds. Quiz 1, question 1 was Chirag Jaiswal from Birla Institute of Management Technology and Ishpreet Singh from Birla Institute of Management Technology. And now I will be announcing for this one latest. So question 3 is Riya Gupta from Birla Institute of Management Technology. Question 4, no right answers came, so there are no winners for that. Question 5, it is Vivek Sharma from sjmsom.in. So these are the 5 winners for the various question and answer session. Now I hand over the session to Ayush to continue further.
Ayush, for the question where we have not got any right answer, could you please share with all the attendees and repeat the question and share the answer?
Okay, ma'am, I will do that. Okay, so the second question, which was Big Basket collaborated with which delivery app? And the answer for that was Uber.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you so much, sir. Now,
Yes, someone had answered on the chat, but that is not as per the rules.
That is not acceptable as per the rules.
Yes.
They were clearly mentioned that they have to write on Q&A.
True. But that is out of anxiety. They must have answered on chat. कि fastest finger first कर लेते हैं, तो prize मिल जाएगा.
Definitely, sir.
In the given time.
I was happy to see the answers that so many people answered, but on the chat.
So, hearty congratulations to all the winners. And first and foremost, I would like to thank now our esteemed keynote speaker for the day, Dr. Raj Sethuraban, Editor-in-Chief, Journal of Retailing, Harold Simon Chair in Marketing, Professor at Southern Methodist University, Texas, USA, for gracing this occasion. And on behalf of Club Retailia, a big thanks to Dr. Harivansh Rai Chaturvedi, Director BIMTech, for always motivating us. Thanks to Dr. Gagan, Chairperson of Retail Program, for believing in us, and Professor Pant for guiding us at every step and showing us the right direction. The two important pillars of the retail management program, Mr. Sai Krishna Bharati and Mr. Ajab Singh. Thank you, sirs, for all your support always. Team Retailia and my dear friend who supported in one or the other way in making this show go on. With the permission of all, I think we have reached the point where we can conclude this call. A big thanks once again to all panelists on screen, all attendees off screen as well. So let's close the call and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
All the best.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye bye. Bye. Thanks.